at least 90% likely to succeed, they wouldn't carry it out. Song Qingshan looked at Song Chun in surprise. Song Chun coldly said, "In that case, let's put on a show, make them think they have a 90% chance of winning. Lure the snake out of its hole." The enemy's plan this time is not to attack the interstellar city directly. Instead, they want to ambush us halfway as we leave. They aim to trap not only me, but also the representatives of the major families supporting me. This is a good chance to catch everyone in one go, and then have the conservatives take control. If I stay inside the city and don't leave, the enemy will worry and abandon this plan. Actually, this plan is also what I want. Song Chun raised his hand, and a battle simulation appeared on the star map. It showed a fleet with a flag leaving the city, while other fleets also departed. On their way back, enemy fleets appeared and ambushed them. But at that moment, everything changed. Many fleets from the Star Alliance appeared at the ambush point. They destroyed all the enemy warships there. At the same time, Song Qingshan found some fleets flying under the Secret Guard's banner that ambushed and defeated the conservative fleet, taking them all out. "Is this a clever trap?" Song Qingshan muttered. "The advantage of this plan is that we can make the Secret Guard's attack on the conservative fleet seem like it came from the enemy's universe. This helps keep the Star Alliance stable, quickly take over the conservatives' assets, and unite everyone against the enemy universe. It's a way to kill many birds with one stone." A smile appeared on Song Chen's face. "But I still think this plan is too risky." At this moment, Shangwan Xiangwei, who had been silent, spoke up worriedly, looking at Song Chun. "You can't get a tiger without entering its den. If I don't step forward, how will those people take the bait?" Song Chun said with a dismissive smile. "First, clarify what's really going on. What exactly do you want me to do?" It is clear that Song Qingshan's emotions are a bit unstable right now. Because such a sudden and big event is happening right in front of him, he is truly caught off guard. The beautiful female Secret Guard leader smiles slightly and says directly, "Our plan is simple. The first part is to use their own tactics against them. The leader will take his flagship and return with his usual 300 interstellar warships, heading to a predetermined destination as planned. Only the high-level members of the Star Alliance Council know about this entire journey." She emphasizes the last sentence. This clearly means that the high-level members of the Star Alliance Council are aware, which implies that the conservatives also know. After that, the enemy will surely set an ambush for us. We not only need to eliminate these enemies and disrupt the conservative plan, but also need to board the ships very carefully. However, to avoid alerting the enemy, the current visible fleets of the Star Alliance front lines cannot be directly ordered to move. Right now, the only suitable option is your fleet. And you have just been promoted. The number of ships you command has also increased. A total of 30,000 ships. Is that correct, Major General? The female Secret Guard looks at Song Qingshan. Inside, Zhao Chen thinks, no wonder the size of Song Qingshan's fleet has increased so quickly recently. Although he's a Major General, it seems unlikely he would suddenly command 30,000 interstellar warships. Moreover, the quality of those 30,000 ships isn't high. At that time, I will issue an order in advance, telling you to lead your fleet to a nearby small world's battlefield. In fact, along the route, there will be a batch of T6 illusion spirits waiting for you. When the plan begins, those T6 illusion spirits will send your fleets to the designated battlefield. As for the battlefield location, the Secret Guard will send it to you. And after this ambush is launched, I will send out a distress signal. At that point, the various fleets of the Star Alliance will provide support, but their response will definitely be slow. So, your responsibility is either to destroy all enemy ships or to protect the starship where I and other high-ranking families are located. You must prevent enemy attacks and ensure we survive until the Allied reinforcements arrive, ultimately wiping out the enemy. This is what Song Chun casually explained about the plan. Song Qingshan was once again surprised. Today was probably the day he was most shocked. He looked at Song Chun and asked, "Why did you choose me?" "Because I trust you," Song Chun replied confidently. Song Qingshan frowned. Song Chun continued, "Honestly, before the civil war within the Star Alliance, the Secret Guards investigated everyone in the Song family thoroughly. I have a copy of that information. Among them, you are rated the highest. Although I dislike the status of the Song family, I wouldn't have taken my father's surname if it weren't for the bigger picture. I would have used my mother's surname instead, but I will change it back someday. So, as I said before, the Song family needs an heir, and you are the person I am satisfied with. Plus, your abilities and the fact that you are the only military force I can mobilize that isn't very noticeable. After all, the high leaders of the Star Alliance know that you don't get along with my brother. They wouldn't expect you to be part of this plan. Song Qingshan was silent for a long time. He looked at Song Chen again, this time with a calm expression. He said, "You trust me so much. Aren't you worried I might betray you? That I might pretend to cooperate, but then secretly act against you? When the time comes, I could betray you, wait until you're dead, and then make my move. I could use the Song family to rise to power and become the leader of the Star Alliance." "You won't," Song Chen said simply. Song Qingshan wanted to argue, but he couldn't find the words. Zhao Chen also nodded silently. He thought Song Chen was quite good at judging people. Song Qingshan is not really like that. He dislikes Song Chen, but he doesn't care about the Song family's status and wouldn't betray Song Chen, especially not at this time. "Okay, I agree," Song Qingshan said coldly. "But if you die, don't blame me." Song Chen smiled as he looked at Song Qingshan, picked up a glass of wine from the table, and said with a smile, "Then I'll leave it to my dear brother." Song Qingshan didn't drink and turned to leave directly. This secret meeting was over. Zhao Chen processed what had happened. If everything went smoothly, based on Song Chen's actions, there shouldn't be much danger. Soon, a figure appeared in front of Zhao Chen. He looked up and was a bit surprised to see who it was. It was Song Qingshan. "General?" Zhao Chen quickly stood up. "Zhao Chen, I have a favor to ask you," said Song Qingshan. "Don't worry, this is a necessary process. You know the special nature of this Black Rose ship. Everyone boarding this starship must have their identity carefully verified," the senior officer said with a slight smile. Zhao Chen nodded in understanding. The senior officer then asked, "One last question. Do you have any weapons on you?" Zhao Chen took out the hilt of his light sword from his waist. "The only weapon I have is this. This is the legendary light sword you use to pilot the land-based interstellar fighter, then jump out at high altitude and cut down alien creatures with your bare hands, right?" The senior officer examined Zhao Chen's light sword. Zhao Chen smiled modestly. Just a coincidence. It seemed the other person had thoroughly investigated his identity. "All right, you can carry this weapon with you. Now, you may board the ship. Please follow me." The senior officer led the way. Zhao Chen followed behind. He recalled a request that Song Qingshan made to him an hour earlier. He was asked to go to the Black Rose No. 1 ship to take up his new position, where all the starfighter pilots would be under his command. The only condition Song Qingshan set was that, under any circumstances, Zhao Chen must ensure Song Chen's safety. When Song Qingshan said this, his expression was very serious. "I don't like Song Chen, but I have to admit, the future of the Star Alliance can't be without him. Please, take care of him," Song Qingshan said, patting Zhao Chen on the shoulder and personally contacting Song Chen's side. This was the only request Song Qingshan made regarding Song Chen. After a brief hesitation, Song Chen agreed once he confirmed Zhao Chen's identity. Zhao Chen still remembered the last thing Song Qingshan said. "I warn you, this person is lent to you. Once this plan is over, you must return him to me," Song Qingshan warned seriously. "Colonel Zhao, I will take you directly to the starfighter hangar of our Black Rose No. 1 ship." The senior officer in front spoke. "This is all the data about the Black Rose No. 1 ship's starfighter module. Also, from now on, you will hold your current ID card. You can access areas related to starfighters and star drones. You will also have command over this part, and no one except the leader can interfere with your orders." When he said this, the senior officer looked at Zhao Chen with strange eyes. It seemed he thought this command was very strange. Giving such power to someone who just boarded the Black Rose No. 1 ship for the first time was surprising. But since it was a direct order from the leader, he dared not question it. At this moment, Zhao Chen also started reading the related information while walking. Although the Black Rose is a heavy starship cruiser, it is more accurately a versatile cruiser. Besides the usual combat modules found on typical cruisers, because it is a heavy ship, it is quite large. In some ways, it sacrifices speed, but it also provides more space. This space is used to hold star missile launchers and ammunition, as well as starfighters and star drones. According to the detailed data in front of Zhao Chen, The Black Rose carries a total of 3,000 starfighters and 100,000 star drones. While these numbers can't compare to those on aircraft carriers, these starfighters and star drones are special. They are all designed specifically for the Black Rose. Since they don't need to perform bombing missions, they are all standard starfighters. The starfighter models are the T6 Rose Knight and the T6 Rose Fairy Star drones. Both are T6 level. They are the only two T6 level starfighters and star drones in the Star Alliance. We have arrived. The senior officer approached a large gate. Beyond it, you could hear lively noises and several hangars the size of football fields. Zhao Chen walked in, and almost immediately, the pilots and ground crew near the gate all looked at him. The senior officer whispered in Zhao Chen's ear, because Black Rose 1 is not a carrier starship, it doesn't need to carry out interstellar combat missions. At most, it will defend when enemy starfighters and drones attack. Its use isn't very frequent. But since you are a starfighter pilot and the leader of the flagship, there are quite a few spies here, all looking down on others. But rest assured about your status, everything is fine. The senior officer sounded a bit helpless as he finished. Thank you. Now, it's my turn to work, Zhao Chen said, thanking the officer. He needed to quickly take control of the situation, mainly to establish authority, or war might break out. The soldiers wouldn't listen to him if he didn't command respect, especially since he was a new leader arriving unexpectedly. Many of the squadron leaders probably already knew about this arrangement, but no one came to greet him. This showed there was some underlying tension. They didn't seem very welcoming. Zhao Chun raised his hand, used his authority, and opened the communication channel for the entire fleet. All crew members and ground staff gather at the main hangar gate within 10 minutes. Anyone late will face strict punishment. In front of the crew and ground personnel, Zhao Chen's command appeared as a video window, issuing this urgent order. The senior officer nearby watched Zhao Chun with interest. He naturally guessed that Zhao Chun, the new officer, was making a strong first impression. He needed to show authority. But he didn't expect Zhao Chun to be so hasty. Usually, when a new leader takes over a position, they try to build relationships gradually. Instead, Zhao Chun immediately made a bold move, which could backfire. In fact, Zhao Chun also wanted to take things slowly and was reluctant to interfere with the team. But he knew what was coming next. This spaceship would be used as bait and soon face enemy attack. Before that, he had to control his power. So he chose to act quickly and decisively. Soon, footsteps echoed through the hangar. More and more people gathered together. All the crew members, including starfighter pilots and ground staff, about 10,000 in total. Seeing so many people assembled was quite impressive. Different teams and ground crews stood in groups, forming small squares. The 10-minute countdown Zhao Chun set was very deliberate. It was the official gathering time during the emergency military alert. This was a standard time, and every soldier who graduated from the military academy was tested on this. 10 minutes passed quickly. Zhao Chun used his authority to activate the surveillance robots in the hangar. Time's up. Scan all present. The cameras above quickly swept over the assembled crowd. Since Zhao Chun kept the communication window open, the over 10,000 people might not see Zhao Chun directly, but they could see and hear him through the video feed. At this moment, the robot reported back. First Flight Squadron, expected 307 personnel, present 304, 3 absent. The absent person, Captain Chao Bing of the First Flight Squad. The Second Flight Squad. The First Ground Crew. Soon, the list of absentees was compiled. It took about half a minute. During that half minute, some people arrived late. One person, walking through the main gate behind Zhao Chun, with his hands in his pockets. Seeming to ignore Zhao Chun, he headed straight toward his team. All absentees, gather in front of me. Zhao Chun issued an urgent order to everyone missing. The person walking past Zhao Chun had a red pop-up window appear in front of him. Captain Chao Bing of the First Squad, you are marked absent because you did not assemble on time. Please report immediately to the flight team leader. Since this was a voice broadcast, those nearby could hear it clearly. Unfortunately, the First Flight Squad was very close to Zhao Chun because of their seating arrangement. The soldiers of the First Flight Squad also heard the message. As for Chao Bing, he didn't turn around, but his cold snort was audible. Next, Zhao Chen's voice sounded over the communication channel. Anyone absent within 1 minute who does not come to me will be expelled from the Starship combat team. Everyone present was stunned by this statement. Even the senior officer next to Zhao Chun was shocked. No one expected Zhao Chun to be so decisive. Chao Bing, the squad leader, now looked uncertain and tense. He wasn't sure if Zhao Chun was just bluffing or serious. At this moment, footsteps could be heard nearby. All the latecomers rushed to gather in front of Zhao Chun. There were over 10,000 people, with nearly 100 late arrivals. Some were probably too lazy normally and didn't expect such a sudden assembly. Some were intentionally late. For example, people like Chao Bing. In the end, Chao Bing turned around and stood with a gloomy face among the latecomers. The 1-minute countdown quickly ended. At this moment, another figure approached casually, walking leisurely with a cigarette in his mouth. "Sorry, I was a little late," he said, lifting his head with a teasing look in his eyes. Zhao Chun calmly watched this person. Then, in front of everyone and during the live video broadcast, he pulled up a list of personnel information. It was the person in front of him, Luo Gaoqiang, Deputy Captain of the 5th Flight Squadron, with the rank of 2nd Lieutenant. Deputy Captain Luo Gaoqiang of the 5th Flight Squadron, disobeying orders. All his positions and titles are revoked. He is to be immediately removed from the Red Rose No. 1 ship. As he spoke, Zhao Chun directly operated on Luo Gaoqiang's information. Luo Gaoqiang was stunned for a moment. Then a red window appeared in front of him. Soldier Luo Gaoqiang, for failing to follow orders, all his duties are revoked. Please leave the Red Rose No. 1 ship within 1 hour. Await further instructions from the Star Alliance authorities. Luo Gaoqiang was completely stunned. He looked at Zhao Chun, walking away angrily and saying, "Hey, are you serious? I was just a little late, and you revoke my rank? Do you know who I am? Do you know my family background? How dare you treat me like this?" Luo Gaoqiang walked up to Zhao Chun, pointing his finger at him as he spoke. Zhao Chun didn't hesitate. He raised his hand and broke Luo Gaoqiang's finger. A sharp scream echoed around. Disobeying orders from a superior, that's an even worse offense, Zhao Chun said, looking at Luo Gaoqiang, who was clutching his broken finger and kneeling on the ground, crying out in pain. "Someone, throw him out," Zhao Chun ordered the nearby soldiers. The soldiers immediately picked up Luo Gaoqiang, but they didn't actually throw him out. Instead, they placed him outside the hangar. Luo Gaoqiang's screams and curses continued to ring out. All remaining latecomers will run 10 laps around the first hangar. Rest after finishing, Zhao Chun said coldly. Many people gasped when they heard this punishment. Although flying interstellar fighters requires strong physical fitness, these soldiers are also very tough. 1 lap around the first hangar is 10 kilometers. 10 laps equal 100 kilometers. Even for these strong soldiers, running 100 kilometers would almost exhaust them. Just being a little late means 100 kilometers of running. At this moment, Chao Bing couldn't help but stand up and stare at Zhao Chun. Protesting is useless. As long as you're a soldier, time is always very important. As a squad leader, you should understand this. And I am your superior. Don't think I won't punish you with 100 kilometers. Even if I order you to run 100 kilometers, you must obey. Unless you want to end up like that guy. Zhao Chun replied bluntly. Chao Bing's expression flickered uncertainly. Finally, he couldn't hold back and said, "You are of a higher rank than us. Soldiers are supposed to obey orders. But here, strength is also respected. How do I know if you have the ability to be our squad leader?" Zhao Chun's lips curled slightly as he looked at him. "I like your attitude. Then let's have a contest. If I win, you don't have to run. But if you lose, you will run 200 kilometers. 100 kilometers is already very scary. 200 kilometers, even these soldiers would probably need to go to the infirmary after finishing. This isn't fair. If I lose, I will run 200 kilometers. If you lose, the punishment is cancelled," Chao Bing argued. Zhao Chun sneered and looked at Chao Bing, pointing to his rank and then at the other person. "Fair? Are you using your status to talk about fairness? I could simply refuse to follow this bet. I could punish you all directly. That would be fair, wouldn't it?" Chao Bing was silent for a moment, then finally looked at Zhao Chun. "All right, I agree to this bet. Go prepare the Interstellar Space Combat Simulator. The whole scene will be live-streamed, so don't say I'm bullying you later," Zhao Chun said, taking off his military jacket and tossing it to a subordinate nearby, who looked at him with approval. At this moment, he also noticed that the senior officer hadn't left. "Sir, do you have anything else to say?" Zhao Chen asked. "I'm just curious about your next bet," the senior officer replied, showing his curiosity openly. Although new officials often make bold moves, it's rare to see such tense confrontations. The senior officer glanced at Qiao Bing, who was already starting to prepare. He then kindly reminded him, Qiao Bing comes from a second-tier military family that mainly produces space fighters and drones. Since he grew up around these, he's very skilled at flying and operating space fighters. On our ship, he's definitely the top pilot. You should be careful. Zhao Chen's lips curled slightly. I'm the top pilot. Just then, soldiers in the distance reported that 2 interstellar combat simulators were ready. These are 2 cockpit simulators that can mimic all aspects of space dogfights, including effects on the pilot like gravity and fatigue, all in perfect detail. It's almost 99% realistic combat simulation. Choose the battle map, Zhao Chun said calmly as he sat in the cockpit, glancing at Qiao Bing next to him. Qiao Bing's face twitched. Choosing the battle map is actually a big advantage. For example, picking a map you're familiar with can increase your chances of winning by about 30%. This guy is so bold. He even let himself choose the battle map. Humph, don't say I bullied you later. Random. After saying that, Qiao Bing directly selected the random option. Soon, a battle map appeared in front of both of them. Because it was a live broadcast for everyone, all viewers saw the randomly chosen battle map. Wow, it's actually Interstellar Sea City. This is the map Captain Qiao is most familiar with. If I remember correctly, Captain Qiao's win rate on this map is 100%. Everyone around was praising him. Qiao Bing couldn't help but smile and looked at Zhao Chun provocatively. Sir, this is the map I know best. Do you want to choose another one? It doesn't matter, let's go with this one. Zhao Chun said casually, then sat directly into the cockpit. The transparent cover of the cockpit slowly closed. Qiao Bing's mouth twitched again. Zhao Chun is really quite arrogant. Just wait until you lose, and see how arrogant you are then. Qiao Bing said no more and sat into the cockpit. Both of them were ready. Soon, the duel began. The senior officer looked at the battlefield scene in front of him. It was a place called Interstellar Sea City. Interstellar Sea City is actually the name of a famous starship combat location. It's a star-ring battlefield around the Sea City star, with very complex conditions, making it a classic map for space battles. Both pilots were flying T6 Rose Knight starships. The senior officer frowned slightly. If he remembered correctly, Zhao Chun hadn't flown this type of Rose Knight starship in actual combat before. This might be his first time flying a T6 Rose Knight starship. Or maybe he had some experience before being assigned to this role, but he definitely wasn't skilled at it. This was not very good. If Zhao Chun had been defeated in this interstellar battle, it would have been a huge blow to his reputation. All his credibility would have instantly disappeared. But soon, the result of the fight proved that he was right. The blue side was destroyed. The cockpit hatch slowly opened. Qiao Bing sat there, stunned, completely still. Zhao Chun looked calmly at the amazed people around him and said, if anyone still doubts, they can challenge me. This is your only chance. But if you lose, you'll be penalized by an extra 50 kilometers. You can choose the type of fighter and the battlefield. This ignited the pride in many of the spectators. Everyone here who pilots interstellar fighters is proud of their skills. Now, someone was standing above their pride, challenging them. They couldn't accept that. Most importantly, although this was a simulated battle, it was very similar to real combat, and it put a real strain on the body. One more round. Qiao Bing suddenly shouted. Zhao Chun turned coldly and looked at Qiao Bing beside him. Qiao Bing's face was red, and he shouted with all his strength. If I lose, I will run 300 kilometers. Zhao Chun said nothing, just quietly closed the cockpit hatch. Qiao Bing immediately also closed his hatch. The second round began. This round ended even faster. The fight lasted 2 minutes. The cockpit hatch opened again. Again, Qiao Bing lowered his head, his hands trembling as if overwhelmed. Zhao Chun didn't speak and continued with another fight. The third round lasted 1 minute and 50 seconds. The fourth round lasted 1 minute and 45 seconds. The fifth round lasted 1 minute and 43 seconds. Again, Qiao Bing shouted wildly, almost losing his mind, because after 5 intense battles, he was soaked in sweat from head to toe. Wearing combat gear, He was fine, but his face was covered with sweat. Help Captain Chow down. Zhao Chun quietly ordered the first team member. As soon as he heard this, the first team member stepped forward and helped Captain Chow out. When Chow left the cockpit, his legs were trembling. Is there anyone else who wants to try? Zhao Chun asked again, his voice not very loud, but feeling like it struck everyone's hearts. At this moment, one of the vice captains from the latecomers raised his hand. In the 6th round, at 2 minutes and 18 seconds, Zhao Chun won. In the 7th round, at 2 minutes and 31 seconds, Zhao Chun won. In the 8th round, at 1 minute and 55 seconds, Zhao Chun won. Everyone seemed to have developed a habit. In one side of the simulation cockpit, every 3 minutes, a driver would walk out looking embarrassed. Then it would be the next person's turn. And without exception, Zhao Chun always won. His excellent driving skills allowed him to understand any battle map easily and operate smoothly. Everyone now genuinely admired this new squad leader. They had no doubts about his skills. Even if he lost one match now, no one would think it was a big deal. But they were curious about how many matches this squad leader could win in total. How many matches have been played so far? 15 matches, and all are wins. This already exceeds our average number of attempts. Our squad leader's physical strength is really impressive. Did you see that he hasn't even broken a sweat so far? There were quiet murmurs around them. They were all curious about what the final winning streak number would be. After a pilot lost in a sneaky way, no one else challenged Zhao Chun. At this point, Zhao Chun had won 18 matches in a row. He stood up from the cockpit, looked around, and said coldly, "Is there anyone else who is not convinced?" No one spoke, and everything was silent. Zhao Chun looked at those who had just been defeated by him. Among them, Chao Bing stood there with a pale face, looking lost and distracted. According to the punishment just now, all of you must now run around the first hangar, Zhao Chun said after finishing his words. These people then quietly started running in circles. Some were luckier, they weren't late earlier, just curious and challenged themselves, but ended up failing and only needed to run 50 kilometers as punishment. Others, who were both late and challengers, had to run 150 kilometers. The most attention was on Chao Bing. No one knew how much Chao Bing had to run. Captain, our team leader, a member of the first flight squad, couldn't help but step forward, wanting to plead for his captain. Shut your mouth. Chao Bing snapped at his team member angrily. Then he silently joined the group running as punishment. Nearly 100 people quietly ran around the large hangar one. Besides the punished captains and vice captains, all other squad leaders, deputy squad leaders, and ground crew leaders gathered in my office. Everyone else, disperse, Zhao Chun said before preparing to leave. He saw the senior officer still on the scene and smiled, saying, "Sorry, I need to handle some matters now." No problem, no problem. Seeing Colonel Zhao's performance today is truly impressive. No wonder he's a hero who has risen several ranks in one battle, the senior officer praised repeatedly. Finally, he took his leave, glancing back 3 times as he departed. Zhao Chun then headed to his office. As for the crowd gathered in the hangar, they stayed for a long time, discussing what had just happened, while also watching those running in circles. Those who needed to go to Zhao Chun's office didn't dare to be careless. They hurried there immediately. No one was late, each person arriving like well-behaved children. After returning to the ship's bridge, the senior officer was called to the captain's chair. Song Chun was sitting there, handling official matters. "Has the person you mentioned been arranged?" The senior officer respectfully asked. "Why did you take so long?" Song Chun looked up, puzzled. The senior officer then reported what happened in the combat hangar. Upon hearing this, Song Chun showed a surprised expression. Is he really that powerful? I think he wanted to build his reputation, but I don't understand why he's so anxious. Using such methods. Although he succeeded, it was very risky. If he failed, his authority here would be gone, and it would be hard to gain everyone's trust, the senior officer said. Song Chun frowned slightly. Could it be that he found out about this battle plan and wanted to quickly understand the starship's interstellar combat capabilities? But that doesn't seem possible. When they discussed earlier, it was decided. Only a few people knew the full battle plan. Could Song Qingshan have told him? After all, it was Song Qingshan who asked for him to be sent here. But that's unlikely. Although Song Qingshan valued this person, he also knew the rules. Sharing such an important plan with a subordinate who is only a colonel is quite inappropriate. "Sir, we have set the departure time. It is expected to be in 3 hours, an officer reported to Song Chen. Song Chen nodded, looked at the star map, and said, report our navigation route to the Star Alliance. Tell them we will head to the Frontline Command Center number 3, where we will coordinate the upcoming full attack plan on the small universe. Regarding the upcoming plan that involves using oneself as bait, Song Chen did not inform his subordinates. No one knew if there were hidden guards planted by the conservatives nearby. That Zhao Chun. Song Chen thought about Zhao Chun. During the banquet earlier, when he made eye contact with Zhao Chun, he felt something strange. However, after investigating Zhao Chun, he found that apart from his sudden display of extraordinary talent after being invaded by an alien species on that planet, everything else about him was very normal and could be verified. As for why he suddenly showed such remarkable talent, that was hard to explain. He even wanted to meet this ace fighter pilot. But as a leader of the Star Alliance, meeting with an interstellar fighter pilot, even as a colonel, still felt a bit unusual. At this moment, Song Chen wanted to avoid such situations as much as possible, so he could only suppress the idea of interacting with Zhao Chen for now. He decided to wait until this mission was over. After giving all the instructions, Song Chen sat on the captain's chair, his eyes deep as he looked at the star map. Once this operation succeeded, he would be able to fully control the forces within the Star Alliance. He would also gain a small world. In the future, he planned to invade the opponent's universe, to gather more cosmic resources and build a powerful interstellar fleet, all to face the coming disaster, even if it meant becoming an invader. In Hangar 1, the number of people running as punishment gradually decreased. Finally, only one person kept running there. That was naturally Chao Bing, who received the harshest punishment. At last, the deputy leader of the first squad couldn't hold back and went to Zhao Chen's office. He begged, Captain Chao was rude to you before, but he has now run 200 kilometers. If they keep running like this, they might lose their lives. Zhao Chen calmly said, with current technology, no one will die from running. But the deputy captain still wanted to plead. Zhao Chen looked up coldly at him and said, everyone must be responsible for their own choices, even Captain Chao Bing. The deputy captain clenched his teeth, unwilling to accept it, and turned away. At this moment, Zhao Chen spoke again. You can notify the medical team to send someone to watch over him. If Chao Bing faints, send him for treatment immediately. The others who haven't finished running can continue next time. Hearing the captain's words, the deputy captain breathed a sigh of relief and quickly made arrangements. In the end, after Captain Chao Bing ran nearly 300 kilometers, he was exhausted and collapsed to the ground. This was very dangerous. Fortunately, medical personnel immediately came to treat him. They used a mechanical stretcher to take Chao Bing to the treatment chamber. There, Chao Bing would only need about half an hour to recover. Within just a few hours, all the starfighter pilots and ground crew on the Black Rose No. 1 ship felt awe for the new commanding officer. Soon, each team began to learn and get familiar with a new training method. It mainly involved practicing several formation patterns. It wasn't very difficult for these skilled pilots, who were carefully selected from the best, and they could master it after just a few hours of training. But no one knew why the captain wanted them to learn this so quickly. All hands, broadcast. Prepare to depart in 10 minutes. At this moment, the announcement was heard across the ship. To others, it seemed like a routine departure. Everyone just focused on their own tasks. But Zhao Chen knew. This departure marked the start of their mission. Zhao Chen slowly walked to his department, the only place with a window through which he could see outside. He saw many starships outside. These belonged to Song Chen's personal fleet, with a total of 300 starships. Among them were 5 nearly T6 Black Rose-class heavy starship battleships, and the rest were all T5 starships. Just looking at this lineup, it was quite impressive. Normally, 3,000 starships would find it hard to handle such a strong force. But the enemy knew the size of Song Chen's fleet and dared to attack him because they were prepared. The only unknown was where the enemy would choose to strike. Zhao Chen opened the star map. Using the spy equipment previously placed on Song Qingshan, he knew the route of this journey. He pulled up the star map for this route. Quickly, he marked a few good spots for an ambush. There were 3 in total. Zhao Chen rubbed his chin, thinking about which of these 3 spots was the best for an ambush. From closest to farthest, they were called ambush point 1, 2, and 3. In terms of advantage, ambush point 1 was the best, but it was too close. Ambush point 3 was the farthest and the worst. The most likely choice was ambush point 2, which was the most balanced. Zhao Chen silently noted down these locations. Then he gave a command to his flying squadron. 30 minutes from now, conduct a live combat simulation. This order was only given to the squad leaders and deputy squad leaders. First Flying Squad Chao Bing, who had just recovered from fainting, pulled off the blanket covering him. He looked very serious. Although his body had recovered, when his feet touched the ground, he still felt as if his legs were not quite right. Captain, the doctor said you need to rest a bit longer. The vice captain quickly stopped Captain Chao Bing when he tried to get out of bed. But Captain Chao Bing stubbornly said, I still owe him 150 kilometers. I must finish running. He then prepared to get up and run. However, the vice captain held him back and said, Captain Chao Bing said that if you haven't finished your run, you need to make it up. But now the starship has already left port, and the entire ship is on high alert. He doesn't want a squad leader to be in a situation where, if war breaks out, he doesn't even have the strength to start the fighter. So, your punishment will be delayed until the next time we dock for rest, he added. Hearing this, Captain Chao Bing paused. He clenched his fists but finally sat quietly on the edge of the bed. It seemed he accepted this arrangement. At that moment, Zhao Chen's first order was announced. It was about combat training. Why does he have so many plans? Just a few hours, and there's already another combat drill, the vice captain said with some dissatisfaction. But Captain Chao Bing spoke up for Zhao Chen, saying, this is what he should do. As a new appointee and a recently arrived squadron leader, he needs to quickly get familiar with his team and understand their combat readiness. Captain, why are you still defending him? If he hadn't come, this squadron leader position would probably be yours, the vice captain said, feeling unfair. But Captain Chao Bing replied calmly, the position of squadron leader goes to the most capable. He is better than us, so he naturally has the ability to hold this position. As subordinates, we should follow his orders. All right, enough talk. Prepare for a half-hour combat simulation. I don't want to embarrass ourselves again in front of our squadron leader, Chao Bing said quietly. It was almost half an hour later. The battle alarm sounded throughout the flight squadron. This alarm only affected the flight squadron and the interstellar fighter units. Other departments were unaware of what was happening. To maintain combat readiness, conducting real combat simulations is the highest authority of the commanding officer. At this moment, all pilots and ground crew of the flight squadron sprang into action. First, they lined up all the interstellar fighters in attack order, and the first group of fighters was moved into the combat hangar to prepare for deployment. Meanwhile, the nearby interstellar drones also prepared for battle. The interstellar fighter pilots dressed neatly and waited in their lounges for orders. Report, all departments are assembled. We are ready to deploy at any moment. A young sergeant reported to Zhao Chen beside him. This was a deputy officer Zhao Chen had chosen. Zhao Chen glanced at the time. 9 minutes and 35 seconds. Within the time limit. Looks like these guys still understand the importance of time, Zhao Chen sneered. Earlier, to give himself a warning, many of them had deliberately been late. Now that they saw his skills, they naturally wouldn't dare to cause trouble anymore. Send out my orders. Disband all departments. But for the next period, I will conduct real combat simulation training at irregular times. Everyone must stay alert, Zhao Chen said. He looked at the star map. Just now, their fleet had already passed the first vulnerable ambush point. Actually, the real purpose of this combat simulation was to ensure that, in case of an ambush, their interstellar fighters and drones could immediately enter combat mode at the shortest possible time. That's why he arranged this kind of real combat training. If no actual conflict occurred at the ambush site, then it was just a training simulation. But if they were ambushed, it would be a good chance to quickly get into battle mode. Next, we moved to the second ambush point. Zhao Chen sat cross-legged in front of the office. Time slowly passed. The entire flying squadron felt like a sword was hanging over their heads. Because the squadron leader said that this real combat simulation training was not over. In the future, this training would happen irregularly. That means no one knew when the next real combat simulation would be. Some people thought this arrangement was unnecessary. But because Zhao Chen showed strong abilities, no one dared to openly oppose him. After some time, Everyone thought that the squadron leader's talk about a real combat simulation might just be scare tactics. Suddenly, the alarm sounded again. All the flying squads and star drone units went into battle readiness. Everyone hurried to their restrooms. In the first squad's restroom, Captain Chow looked at the time. He frowned as he watched 3 people who entered the restroom at 10:08. What's going on with you 3? According to the rules, the assembly time is 10 minutes. You are 8 seconds late. Captain Chow scolded them. One of them helplessly said, "We were just eating in the spaceship cafeteria when we heard the alarm. We hurried over. But on the way, we ran into another department on break, and the corridor was blocked. We were a little late because of that. We didn't do it on purpose, and the squadron leader was clearly trying to mess with us. What's with this fake combat training? And we were only 8 seconds late." The other 2 people looked there with a guilty expression, as if they had done nothing wrong at all. Captain Chow frowned and went up to each of the 3, giving them a stern kick. He scolded harshly, "Blocking? Eating? Is that your excuse for being late? And you say only 8 seconds? Do you know what those 8 seconds mean in real combat? It could mean your teammate doesn't get support and gets destroyed by the enemy." Hearing Captain Chow's scolding, the 3 could only accept the criticism quietly. Report: all squads have finished gathering. However, 3 squads were late, but their delay was less than 20 seconds, the officer reported to Zhao Chun. 20 seconds? Zhao Chun frowned. He said in a serious voice, "Broadcast to all teams. The late squads are to be reminded." Zhao Chun looked at the star map. Just when he thought this might only be a simulation, the alarm bells on the entire spaceship suddenly blared. "Captain, this doesn't seem like a simulation anymore. It's a real battle alert." The officer returned, looking panicked. Zhao Chun knew this too, because he had already received combat orders from the bridge. "Send my orders. Execute the planned combat operation. All flying squads prepare to take off and deploy interstellar drones." Zhao Chun didn't hesitate, entering a battle state and starting to organize. Meanwhile, after the officer left, Zhao Chun quietly accessed the ship's system backend. He pulled up some information he needed. First was the battlefield star map. He saw several red circles at the front of the escort fleet. Interstellar hidden mines? Zhao Chun saw a term from a report. It seemed that the starship at the front had hit an enemy-placed interstellar hidden mine. This is a T5 level technology product. It works on the principle of mines. However, it is rarely used in interstellar battles because it is very expensive. Its invisibility ability is also limited by time. Once the time runs out, the energy needed for invisibility is exhausted. Then, it loses its ambush advantage. Therefore, to use this weapon, one must know the enemy's travel route and timing, and place these interstellar mines along the main paths. All these conditions must be met. With Song Chen's cooperation, it is easy for the enemy to gather such data. In the first ambush, Zhao Chen saw nearly 30 interstellar warships in the guard fleet, all damaged to some extent. The 5 ships leading the attack had their shield energy completely drained, and one of them was even damaged. At the same time, many enemy starships appeared around them, about 1,000 in total. All of these were T5 level or higher interstellar warships, and among them, there were even traces of near T6 level starships from the enemy universe. A near T6 Kadhavi-class medium star battleship. This is the only near T6 level starship the enemy has, and there are nearly 30 of them. This is 6 times the number of Zhao Chen's own T6 starships. It looks like the enemy came prepared, aiming to destroy Song Chen. "Song Qingshan, the task you assigned me is not simple," Zhao Chen muttered. Then he left his office and headed to the combat hangar. All the hangars were busy now, with starships taking off one after another. Zhao Chun went to his own starship. "Captain, are you going to fight too?" The deputy hurried over. "I'm a starship pilot. If I don't go, what else can I do?" Zhao Chun replied. "But, usually, the captain commands from behind." "You are not here," the deputy officer said with some worry. Zhao Chun rolled his eyes. "I've already given all the necessary instructions. The rest is up to you to handle. If you're really unsure how to deal with it, contact me again." After speaking, Zhao Chun put on his helmet and closed the cockpit cover. Zhao Chun took off in a nearly T6 Rose Knight-class starship. Although this was his first real flight in this starship, he knew its various features well. Plus, after several simulator training sessions, Flying this starship was no problem for him. Colonel Zhao, your mission is to protect the safety of the airspace around the Black Rose 1 ship. Enemy starfighters and drones are not allowed to threaten our airspace, came the order from the bridge. Unlike the emphasis on starfighters from Song Qingshan's side, here they mainly serve as support. Understood, Zhao Chen replied. Since he didn't have to take the risk himself, he was happy to follow orders. All squads, follow Plan C, Zhao Chen ordered over his command channel. He also gave an order to the department managing the drones. All-star drones stay on standby. Do not deploy without my command. Next, Zhao Chen and his team just had to wait. Meanwhile, Zhao Chen enjoyed watching this ambush unfold. Although it was an ambush, Song Chen's side had prepared in advance. When the attack was launched, they immediately used their pre-planned strategy. 300 starships formed a V-shaped defensive formation. The most important ships, like carriers and large warships, were inside. Star destroyers and escort ships were on the outside, intercepting enemy attacks. This was truly the best plan. Although the enemy has 1,000 starships, it is still very difficult to quickly take down these 300 ships with such a defensive formation. Immediately send out our situation to the outside. On the bridge, Song Chen gave a quick order. But soon, bad news arrived. Report, there are strong long-range communication jamming devices nearby. We cannot send out rescue messages. The officer in charge of communications reported anxiously. Song Chen's face darkened, but he had already expected this. Notify the nearby invisible starship scouts to immediately leave the enemy's communication jamming area and send out the intelligence here, including the coordinates of our attack. The hidden starship scouts, lurking in the shadows, immediately started to leave the battle zone. But something unexpected happened. Suddenly, explosions appeared in the empty space, and then several invisible starships were exposed. Report, all 5 of our invisible starship scouts have been attacked by unknown enemies. They are now exposed. We cannot carry out our original plan. The subordinate said anxiously. Song Chen looked at the star map. Indeed, all 5 invisible starship scouts had been exposed, and the attackers showed no attempt to hide. It was actually several integrated starship combat anti-stealth ships. It seems the enemy was well prepared. Song Chen's face darkened. Although he had anticipated this situation, one backup plan was to, during this time, she would secretly contact Song Qingshan once in a while. They agreed that if there was no contact within the agreed time, it meant they had been attacked and communications were blocked. This way, Song Qingshan could learn about the attack on Song Chen's fleet. Although he couldn't get precise coordinates to send help directly, at least he could determine a rough area. If nothing else works, make a rough guess of a coordinate range, send the fleet over, and then conduct a thorough search. Find the location of the ambush point. However, this will greatly increase Song Chen's risk. But that is the worst-case scenario. Song Chen did not speak again. It seems they can only proceed with the worst plan. Keep defending the position. We will definitely hold out until reinforcements arrive. Song Chen said encouraging words. Zhao Chen also saw those interstellar multi-purpose stealth ships. This is a very rare type of ship, and it has its own invisibility feature. The technology is very difficult, but its combat power is not very strong. So, very few interstellar forces develop this type of ship. It is a high-cost, low-return investment, unless your enemy has outstanding invisibility technology. For example, Zhao Chen's Shadow Dragon Legion. In the universe of Shadow Dragon, when Zhao Chen rose to power, some interstellar forces did develop this kind of starship. But initially, they were just standard anti-invisibility ships, and their technology was quite basic. When Zhao Chen launched the T5 Interstellar Stealth Reconnaissance ship, those forces were still only using T4 level stealth ships. This kept the technological gap in favor of Shadow Dragon. Later, after Shadow Dragon controlled the entire universe, Zhao Chen simply bought all the research institutes working on anti-invisibility tech. They continued to develop this technology, but only for Shadow Dragon. It was good technology, but it could only be controlled by him. Zhao Chen looked at the control room behind him. He learned that the remote communication had been intercepted. He frowned slightly. This meant the arrival of reinforcements would be delayed significantly. If the enemy only deployed these 1,000 interstellar ships, it might not be a big problem. Zhao Chen saw on both sides of the battlefield In the distant areas, a series of light rings appeared. Damn, the worst situation has occurred. These light rings are not just anything. They are the engines of starships. And these starships are not from the enemy universe. They are from the Star Alliance universe. The types of these starships are familiar to the Star Alliance soldiers. In fact, these starships didn't even bother to hide their identification numbers. Their ship numbers and fleet affiliations are clear. Zhao Chun enlarged the image and was able to identify them. They came from the three major conservative families, and they are their most elite fleets. Each fleet has 300 starships, which means nearly 1,000 starships in total. The situation is rapidly worsening. This is the Snowflake fleet from the Morong family, the Tiger Roar fleet from the Tang family, and the Double Axe fleet from the Chung family. The deputy commander looked at this scene in shock. Song Chun, however, remained unfazed, sneering, "These guys. They really don't hide anything, planning to go all out this time. They want me dead." 2,000 starships ambushing 300 starships. Even if those 300 are elite, it's hard to hold out. Song Chin's 300 starships are in great danger. "Sir, I have an idea. Our interstellar stealth reconnaissance ship was also attacked by the enemy and cannot leave the combat zone. Therefore, I need you to organize a squad of fighter pilots for a daring mission. Charge out, and in areas without communication interference, send the situation here, a request for help, and the coordinates. This is your task. You understand clearly." The serious expression of the senior officer showed how important this mission was. "I wonder which fool came up with this task." Zhao Chen silently cursed, but kept a calm face. After all, he was now under someone's command. He had to carry out the task assigned to him. "Understood," Zhao Chun said seriously. "Colonel Zhao Chun, I know this task is very difficult, but it concerns the safety of the fleet leader. So, please do your best." After speaking, the senior officer saluted Zhao Chun. "I believe in your flying skills. I've seen your ability myself. It's the leader who recommended you for this mission. I want to say thank you." Zhao Chun really wanted to punch this guy in the nose. He also regretted letting this person stay around when he was trying to show off earlier. It was like shooting himself in the foot. "I understand. I will do my best to complete this task," Zhao Chun said, then cut off communication with the senior officer. He really didn't want to see that guy's face. Just thinking about it made him angry. But since the task was accepted, he had to carry it out. Zhao Chun looked at his 10 flying squads. He directly contacted 3 of them. "First squad, third squad, sixth squad. Gather immediately and prepare for the urgent mission," Zhao Chun ordered. At the same time, he also ordered the department managing the interstellar drones. "Deploy 10,000 Rose Fairy-class interstellar drones immediately." At this moment, 3 message windows appeared in Zhao Chun's view. The 3 flight squadron leaders each took charge of their teams. Zhao Chun briefly explained the mission to the 3 squadron leaders. "Let's break through now and send out a distress signal." The 3rd squadron leader was surprised. This mission was clearly very dangerous. Even your stealth reconnaissance ship was intercepted by the enemy. When they saw your starfighter try to escape, they naturally understood your plan and sent forces to block you. Even if you manage to break free and send a distress signal, you still need to return. After all, starfighters run out of fuel and must head back to the mothership for supplies. Otherwise, they will crash. This means these flight squads will face danger twice. And such a risky mission was assigned to them. Some people naturally started to think, especially Chao Bing from the 1st squadron. He frowned slightly, wondering if Zhao Chun was seeking revenge. Sending his 1st squadron on such a dangerous mission was almost certain death. But Zhao Chun quickly reassured them. "For this urgent mission, I will go with you and take command." He then contacted the captain of the 2nd squadron. "While I am away, you will take charge of the mothership's command. Follow my plan exactly." "Yes," the 2nd squadron leader replied. With that, the 3 squadron leaders had nothing more to say about the mission. Their commanding officer was personally leading the team. What else was there to discuss? Anything else would just be fear of death. Soon, nearly 1,000 T6 Rose Night starfighters and 10,000 T6 Rose Fairy Star drones were assembled. They were all fully fueled and armed, ready to go. Execute C5 combat flight formation. Flying direction //. Use 70% of the fighter's maximum speed. Zhao Chun issued the 1st command. This 1st command made everyone very confused. First, For such an urgent mission, why not fly at full speed? And the flying direction was still toward the initial 1,000 interstellar warships. No one could understand what the squadron leader was thinking. Some might even think these interstellar fighters were going to seize the enemy's air control. Captain Chow's heart trembled. He looked in disbelief at the persistent pop-up window in the command channel. That calm and composed squadron leader Zhao Chun. Just before reaching the combat zone, Zhao Chun suddenly ordered, all units turn forward/, fly at full speed. At this moment, the entire squadron made almost a right-angle turn. Everyone realized the squadron leader's plan. It was a clear feint. First, they made the enemy think this flight group was heading for air control. But in fact, they had a different goal. Meanwhile, the enemy fleet also discovered the true purpose of this flight group. They immediately tried to intercept. But except for a few nearby interstellar fighters that could reach these fighters with their firepower, most could not catch up due to speed alone. These T6-level interstellar fighters and drones were too fast. They could only rely on their own interstellar fighters and drones to intercept. As a result, a large number of interstellar fighters and drones swarmed out, heading toward Zhao Chun's flight group. Their numbers were more than twice as many. Fly at full speed. Follow my orders. Zhao Chun's voice rang out in the command channel. Yes, replied the 3 squadron leaders. Soon, one small flight team latched onto their tail. At this moment, Zhao Chun directed a squadron of interstellar drones to turn around and attack the enemy flight team. This is a simple tactic of intercepting and wearing down the enemy. However, Captain Chow was quickly stunned, because these interstellar drones also have tactics, and they are all under Captain Zhao Chun's command. This captain is quite capable. He not only pilots the interstellar fighter, but also manages to command these drones. Being able to command 1,000 drones requires strong skills. But what happened next made Captain Chow's mouth open in surprise. As the enemy flying squad increased, the number of drones under Zhao Chun's command had grown to 3,000. This involves 3 separate battlefields. Despite this, Colonel Zhao Chun remained calm and composed in the command channel. He was like an elegant piano player. The nearly T6 Rose fairy-level interstellar drones responsible for intercepting, like moths to a flame, managed to block the enemy fighters' pursuit. But gradually, they were destroyed. 10,000 drones were gradually destroyed. This also meant that Zhao Chun's team was gradually weakening. Still can't contact the outside world? Zhao Chun asked Chao Bing. He had assigned the task of communication to Chao Bing. Chao Bing was sweating on his forehead and shook his head, saying, still can't reach outside. Keep flying, Zhao Chun said in a deep voice. Chao Bing was feeling a bit anxious now. He worried. Captain, we're already far from the mothership. Plus, with the loss of drones, if we keep going, even if we reach an area where we can contact the outside, we might not be able to return safely. Every time they fly further, this fleet is stepping closer to a cliff. A small mistake could lead to falling into a deep abyss. Zhao Chun looked serious and said coldly, we have no other choice. If we retreat now, we might be able to return to the mothership. However, when we attack a second time, the enemy will surely be prepared. At that point, completing the mission will be much harder, and we might have to pay several times more. So, this time, we only have one chance. No matter what, we must send out the distress signal and the coordinates. Hearing the captain's words, even Chao Bing, who is very proud, sincerely admired this airborne captain. He thought to himself, no wonder they chose this person to be their captain. He has incredible starship flying skills and a strong will. If he weren't the captain, others wouldn't be qualified either. At this moment, Chao Bing was completely convinced. Yes, Chao Bing gritted his teeth and replied. The flying squad continued forward, but more enemy flying teams came to intercept them. Even sending star drones to block the enemies, it was hard to slow down their pursuit. Zhao Chun took a deep breath. He said in a serious voice, Chao Bing, Zhao Ying, Li Xinan, you 3 squad leaders, now pick the names of your sub-teams. The teams you select will take on the role of cover, leading their own flying groups to work with star drones to stop the enemies from catching up. When the 3 squad leaders heard Zhao Chun, they were all surprised. They knew very well that the 3 chosen teams would almost certainly face death. Zhao Chun continued, have you heard about the secret attack mission General Song Qingshan carried out before? Some of the starship pilots who sacrificed themselves during that mission received large compensation. I, Zhao Chun, promise you that all soldiers who take part in this mission and sacrifice themselves will receive equal compensation. You have 1 minute to give your orders. Then, starting with the first team, each team will be called in turn, second, third, fifth. If all 3 teams take their turns, and we still haven't completed the task assigned by our superiors, we will keep drawing. When Zhao Qin spoke, everyone felt a sudden shock. They all knew the stories of the starship pilots who received extra generous rewards. They realized that this was the same as the legendary ace pilot and starship commander's name. At this moment, they understood that the squadron leader who parachuted in was the famous ace pilot. Yes, the 3 team leaders said together. They quickly gave orders to their 10 subordinate teams. They also emphasized the high rewards promised by Zhao Chun. At first, when they heard about this dangerous mission, the pilots felt hopeless. But when they heard about the promised rewards, their eyes lit up like sparks. Soon, the 3 flying teams started drawing lots. Each team had 300 starships, forming a flying squadron. Within each team, there were 10 combat groups, each with 30 starships. Although the numbers weren't large, each starship was a nearly top-tier T6 Rose Knight class, so their fighting power was quite strong. Team 1, Combat Group 3, prepared to intercept. Chao Bing announced his team's draw first. Combat Group 3, received. The leader of that group shouted. Then, he ordered his team to slow down and turn around. Following that, 1,000 star drones also turned around. With the help of starships, the situation for these drones looked much better. They could hold back the pursuing enemies. But this was only a temporary measure. Soon, all the intercepted starfighter and drone units were exhausted. Team 3, Zhao Chun announced the number of the 3rd team. The leader of Team 3 shouted loudly, Team 3, 8th Combat Group, attack. Yes, the leader of the 3rd Combat Group had red eyes. He was a young man. Perhaps he was very scared inside, but being able to carry out this mission showed he was strong. Seeing the expression of his team leader, the 3rd team leader scolded sharply, "Don't look like a crying girl. Since you joined the starfighter team, you must be ready to sacrifice at any time." After speaking, he looked at his team leader and whispered, "Brother, if you can go back, take care of our mother. Just tell her I have been assigned to a faraway star system." Zhao Qin watched this scene, remaining calm. He had looked at the information of everyone in this large team. Even just a glance, he remembered it all. This team leader was the younger brother of the 3rd team leader. Sending his own brother off was undoubtedly the cruelest thing, especially for the older brother. It was more painful than killing him. After Team 3 was the 5th team. As one wave was ending, the number of star drones left was fewer than 3,000. Their way back was becoming more and more uncertain. Finally, good news came. "We've made contact. I've reached them." Chao Bing was so excited that, if he weren't inside the cockpit, he might have jumped for joy. He never thought he would be this excited one day, just because they made contact. "Stop talking nonsense. Report the situation here quickly, request support, and send out our coordinates. Send multiple directions to make sure nothing goes wrong." Zhao Qin ordered. Black Rose Ship Number 1 Flagship Bridge Report, Assault Squad, signal received. "We have successfully sent out our distress message," the senior officer excitedly reported. At this moment, Song Chun watched the video screen. In the image, he could see the distant starry sky. The interstellar fighters had lights that flickered at a steady rate. This was a prearranged signal with Zhao Chun before departure. To prevent communication interference at this distance, they agreed on this signal. Once the distress message and coordinates were sent, the ships would flash at a fixed frequency to inform the fleet. Zhao Chun really is capable. Despite the enemy's repeated interceptions, he managed to break through. The senior officer's eyes were full of praise. They managed to escape. But whether they can return? Song Chin's expression was serious as he looked at the small squadron of starships and drones in the distance, like a lonely star. Hearing the leader's words, the senior officer fell silent. This was indeed the truth. Out of the original 1,000 T6 Rose Knight starships, only about 800 remained. It seemed like a lot, but the accompanying drone fleet had fewer than 2,000 left. And on their return route, there were still enemy starfighter groups that had previously intercepted them. Whether they could break through again was uncertain. They could hardly offer much help. "Report to the captain," All distress signals and coordinates have been sent. Zhao Bing excitedly reported to Zhao Chun. Finally, they could head back. But Zhao Qin's expression was very serious. He knew the real test was just beginning. Give my orders. During the return journey, use the B-1 assault combat formation. Each squad's combat team will draw lots. The front of the drawing order is at the outer edge of the battle formation, and so on. Everything depends on fate, Zhao Qin said calmly. His simple words felt heavy like 1,000 pounds. Zhao Bing was stunned. He knew this was a life-and-death draw, deciding the commands for each small battle group. He hesitated and didn't speak for a long time. Earlier, a battle group was chosen to hold the line, but when that group was completely wiped out, he felt very upset inside. Let me draw. Zhao Qin saw this and started drawing without hesitation. Soon, all the surviving battle groups from the 3 main flying squads were arranged. The list is ready. All battle groups are ordered according to their rank. Anyone who disobeys will be considered to have broken orders and face death. Those who sacrifice themselves bravely on the return journey will receive generous rewards. Do you understand? Zhao Chun shouted loudly over the communication channel. Understood. The leaders of each battle group responded. Then, the return journey began. The enemy's starfighter teams, which had failed to intercept earlier, now saw these returning fleets. They all turned red with anger, determined to avenge their defeat. Zhao Qin's battle formation had the chosen battle groups at the front, at the sharp tip of the attack formation, with star drone swarms protecting the wings. It formed a shape like a falling leaf, ready to break out. When the battle group at the top of the leaf was exhausted, a new group would take its place. This return route was paved with the blood of their comrades. When their starship missiles, cannons, and star shields ran out of energy, they would pilot their starfighters to serve as the last shield, blocking the front line for their teammates. They were getting closer to their fleet, but the star drone swarm was almost completely used up, with only a few hundred remaining. At this moment, many battle positions originally handled by interstellar drones needed to be taken over by different combat teams. This made the losses even greater. Zhao Bing, take over my command. Zhao Bing, feeling heavy-hearted, suddenly heard a message on the command channel. He snapped back to his senses and saw the squad leader flying a starship, following a certain combat team, rushing to the front of the formation. Squad leader, Zhao Bing shouted worriedly. At that moment, he realized that during the previous draw, the squad leader's name was assigned to this combat team. This was because the team leader had unfortunately sacrificed himself in the last battle. But they never expected that Captain Zhao Chun would step forward himself. Captain, your position is special, and your responsibility is very important. You can't be in such a dangerous place. Please step back. I'll take the lead. Zhao Bing shouted through the command channel. Since earlier, Zhao Bing had admired Zhao Chun deeply. I am the squad leader, but I am also a member of this temporary assault team. Everyone can draw lots to take the front position. Why can't I? Am I a coward afraid of death? Zhao Chun said calmly, operating his starship without hesitation. He wanted to go home. He longed to see his wife and his unborn child. But he knew clearly what he had to do. He was not someone afraid of death. If he hid at the back of the team because of fear, then even if he returned to the dragon, he wouldn't be the same emperor he once was. No matter which universe he was in, Zhao Chun was that fearless emperor. Zhao Chun's words echoed through the command channel. Everyone could hear them. They all felt touched. In such a commanding officer's hands, what more could they ask for? Soon, only Zhao Chun's starship remained in his battle group. The shield energy had dropped below 30%, but thanks to Zhao Chun's excellent flying skills, he was still intact. Otherwise, he would have been destroyed long ago. At this moment, the next battle group arrived to support. This group, intentionally or not, was protecting Zhao Chun's ship. This was the first squad's battle group, and it was a secret order from Zhao Bing. They had to protect the captain at all costs. They were just one step away from their fleet. But at this time, more than 30 interstellar destroyers blocked their path. Their ominous gun barrels aimed directly at Zhao Chun's starship. It was like a huge barrier blocking their way home. This was the obstacle preventing them from returning home. Zhao Chun's heart sank to the bottom. But in the next second, he gave a command. First squad, 5th battle group. Third squad, 7th battle group. 5th squad, 2nd battle group. Follow me in a direct attack to draw enemy fire from the interstellar warships. The remaining starships will form a fan-shaped formation to flank around the enemy's blockade, using their respective battle groups, and return to the mothership. When they heard this order, Captain Chow immediately objected, saying, "Captain, I oppose. I don't oppose the order itself, but I think you shouldn't take such risks. I request to command these 3 battle groups to attract the enemy's fire." There was no time to argue here. "Execute the order," Zhao Chen replied firmly. Then he scolded, "Don't think that flattering me here means your punishment is over. Remember, after you go back, you must complete every circle you're supposed to run." These words sounded like a final warning. Captain Chow's heart was moved. He clenched his fists. With a nearly trembling voice, he shouted, "Yes." The remaining fleet, as Zhao Chen ordered. Except for the frontline units, the others scattered like falling petals, bypassing the enemy's starship blockade. In this situation, this was the only way to ensure as many of the starfighters involved in the mission could return safely. Because Zhao Chen's fleet was fully committed, the enemy's star destroyers couldn't focus all their firepower on intercepting the surrounding starfighters. They could only direct their attacks at Zhao Chen's fleet. "It was an honor for our combat team to fight alongside you," a team leader said through the communication channel. Soon after, Zhao Chen's starfighters were hit by enemy ships' secondary guns and exploded. Then, the starfighters around Zhao Chen bravely moved to block the enemy's fire. If they had shields, they used them to defend. If not, they used their starfighters to shield Zhao Chen's fleet. Perhaps for the first time, they fought sincerely for their commander. Zhao Chen's lips trembled slightly, because these people truly sacrificed themselves. No revival, no clones, no life signals. They truly disappeared from this world. The firepower of the intercepting star destroyers in the distance lessened slightly. Then, one star destroyer suddenly exploded from the middle. At that moment, Zhao Chen saw over the blockade line more than 10 star cruisers from the Star Alliance appear. "Colonel Zhao Chen, we have been ordered to support you." A video window popped up in front of Zhao Chen. It was the captain of a star cruiser. The captain looked at Zhao Chen with admiration. Few captains would look at starfighter pilots with such respect. Even a lower-ranking captain would feel a bit dismissive when seeing a starfighter pilot with a higher rank. This is a kind of disdain hierarchy within the military. The ship captain is at the top. Interstellar fighter pilots, even if they are squad leaders or squadron commanders, are still below a ship captain. Some are even considered senior officers on the bridge. That's why many interstellar fighter pilots, after earning some military achievements, choose to transfer to the bridge for duty. But Zhao Chen's performance now is enough to impress any officer. "Thank you," Zhao Chen said. Then he saw the fleet of interstellar cruisers break through the enemy's starship formation. Zhao Chen immediately gave orders to his 3 combat groups. After a fierce barrage of gunfire and explosions, the 3 tactical groups, which had been following Zhao Chen to hold back the enemy's fire, about 100 fighters and 1,000 drones, were reduced to fewer than 50 fighters and 200 drones that managed to escape. They then withdrew towards the mothership, protected by the cruisers. Most of these fighters were almost out of energy because they had flown at speeds faster than allowed, quickly using up their fuel. When these fighters safely returned to their mothership, they had very little energy left. It can even be said that if Zhao Chen's fighters had flown outside for just a little longer, they would have become easy targets for the enemy. They successfully landed. Zhao Chen finally relaxed. He loosened his grip, leaned back in the cockpit, and took a deep breath to calm himself. The dark lift shaft quickly ended, replaced by the bright lights of the combat hangar. The hatch opened. Zhao Chen stood up. He saw the familiar scene again. Many people were waiting in front of his fighter. Captain Chow was there too. But compared to the last time, there were fewer people. Zhao Chen stepped down from the interstellar fighter. He looked at the group and said bluntly, "What are you all doing here? Nothing to do? The battle isn't over yet. Return to your rest rooms immediately to rest and adjust your condition and replenish your energy. Those who are injured should go for treatment right away. Chao Bing, stay behind." Upon hearing the captain's stern voice, these people silently saluted Zhao Chen and then returned to their rest rooms. Captain Chao Bing stood beside Zhao Chen, his eyes full of admiration. "You're a grown man. Don't stare at me like that," Zhao Chen said. Chao Bing chuckled. How are the casualties in the 3 squads? Zhao Chun asked directly. Xiao Bing's expression stiffened for a moment, but he quickly answered honestly. In this operation, 3 squads were deployed, nearly 1,000 interstellar fighters. But only fewer than 200 fighters returned safely. As for the interstellar drones, only about 600 came back. Compared to the scale at departure, the number of survivors was really very small. The distress signal has already been sent out. I think there won't be many more issues for us now. At most, we'll be responsible for defending the space around the mothership and our fleet. You can handle that. I need to take care of some things, Zhao Chun said as he walked. What things? Xiao Bing asked curiously. I'm going to follow up on promises I made to those brothers who didn't return, Zhao Chun replied. Xiao Bing was surprised. He hesitated a bit and said, now might not be the best time to bring that up with the higher-ups. Completing the mission and receiving rewards are natural. There's nothing about timing that matters. That's also a promise I made. I keep my word. That's my principle. After speaking, Zhao Chun entered his office and directly shut the door. Looking at the closed door, Xiao Bing felt deep respect inside. Black Rose ship number 1 bridge now. We just have to wait. Song Chin sat on the captain's chair, looking serious. Right now, the situation is tense. He could only wait for reinforcements to arrive. However, remote communication was being interfered with. He wasn't sure how the other ambush battlefields were doing. Compared to his location, the enemy forces at the other ambush sites probably didn't have as many troops. At this moment, a communication request popped up. It was from Captain Zhao Chun of the Flying Squadron. Song Chen clicked to accept. Zhao Chen's video appeared on his screen. Greetings, leader. The mission has been successfully completed, Zhao Chun said confidently. I saw that. You did very well. When this war ends, you will be rewarded generously, Song Chen replied. Zhao Chen didn't respond immediately. Instead, he spoke about his own request. In this battle, I led nearly 1,000 starfighters on the mission. Only about 200 returned. A total of 779 people sacrificed themselves during this operation. I promised them during the fight that as long as they risked their lives and completed the mission, all the fallen would receive the highest level of honor and reward, similar to the special treatment I received during a secret mission with General Song Qingshan. I hope the leader will approve this, Zhao Chen requested. The deputy beside him frowned and quickly interrupted. Colonel Zhao, isn't this overstepping your authority? Last time was one thing, but now you're doing it again. This isn't appropriate. While the reward for over 700 people isn't small, according to your request, it could fully meet the standards for rewarding 70,000 people. If others follow your example, how will the High Command of the Star Alliance handle this? Zhao Chen remained calm and looked at the officer in the corner of the video window. He said quietly, are these over 700 fighter pilots risking their lives just to keep the leader safe? Isn't that enough to earn this pension? Is the leader's life worth so little? No one expected Zhao Chen to speak so frankly. Song Chun frowned slightly. How dare you? The officer was furious and even raised his finger pointing at Zhao Chun. Silence. Song Chen snorted coldly. The officer lowered his hand and dared not speak further. Song Chen looked at Zhao Chun, his gaze seeming to see through him. He said, indeed, you sacrificed over 700 fighter pilots who fought bravely, knowing this was a life-and-death mission, and you completed it at all costs. I approve of this pension standard. Thank you, leader. Zhao Chen nodded slightly. Zhao Chen, I have a question for you. You dare to make such a request. Aren't you worried that the higher-ups in the Star Alliance might make things difficult for your promotion and rewards in the future? After that battle, your achievements are enough for a colonel position. You could even become a starship captain, or at least be sent to a special academy to train as one. Hearing Song Chen's question, Zhao Chen replied calmly, it's just a reward. If they refuse to give it, leader, I have other matters to attend to. With that, Zhao Chen directly ended the communication. That guy is too arrogant. The officer beside Song Chun was furious and bowed to him. Sir, this person is too proud and self-important. We need to teach him a lesson. Song Chun looked at his officer and said calmly, I'll handle Zhao Chen myself. But you, go rest for now. When you know when to speak and when not to speak, come find me again. Hearing these words from the leader, the deputy's face suddenly changed. This was like being sent to a cold palace. There are several deputies around the leader, and everyone competes to become the most trusted one. Now he is definitely finished. He wanted to explain something, but he opened his mouth and then held back. He knew the leader's temper, and if he explained now, he might really lose his chance. Yes, he silently bowed and left. Zhao Chun is quite interesting, thought Song Chun, with a strange light in his eyes. At that moment, another video window popped up, but this time, the sender was special. It was from the Morong family. This is the fleet commander of the elite fleet involved in the ambush. Song Chun didn't hesitate and answered immediately. On the screen, a middle-aged man sat confidently in the captain's chair, showing an arrogant expression. He is Morong Bo's son, the future heir of the Morong family. The most elite fleet of the Morong family is under his control, which is normal. Respected leader, Song Chun looked at him with a cold expression and said nothing. The atmosphere became a bit awkward. Morong Qiao imagined that the leader would be furious, but that angry look didn't appear. This made his prepared speech useless. The leader, both of us understand the current situation. If we continue, you have no chance of winning. It's better to surrender now. Our Morong family can guarantee your safety and let you live peacefully on a planet for the rest of your life, said Morong Qiao. This clearly meant to keep Song Chun under house arrest. But whether this was true or not was uncertain. At this moment, Song Chun finally spoke. Morong Qiao, you are truly not as clever as your old, stubborn father. If you wanted to persuade me to surrender, he would have told me immediately when Morong's fleet arrived, not now. Now, the battle is halfway through, and you come to ask for surrender. Doesn't that show you are not confident you can defeat my fleet? Or perhaps it would cost you a lot and be too risky. Maybe because I just sent out a distress signal? Song Chun's words directly hit Morong Qiao's weakness. They had set up an ambush with their own forces against Song Chun's guard fleet, using all kinds of equipment and tactics. But unexpectedly, the enemy was quick to send out a distress signal. They underestimated the fighting strength of Song Chun's guard fleet. They truly had no full confidence they could defeat Song Chun. That's why they came to negotiate surrender, hoping to test the waters. But unexpectedly, they revealed their true intentions. Don't be arrogant. Now, you and your fleet are surrounded. Even if your reinforcements arrive, we can still defeat you. And your family leaders supporting you have been ambushed by us. The Star Alliance will soon be under our control. Surrender now is giving you a chance. Don't be ungrateful. Facing Morong Qiao's words, Song Chun simply said one sentence and then cut off communication. Then continue fighting. Song Qingshan paced back and forth on his flagship's bridge. He frowned as he looked at his deputy. Have we received any message from Leader Song yet? No, the deputy shook his head. What's going on? Song Qingshan walked to the large interstellar map. On the map, there were several red circles visible. This was already the reinforcements that had been arranged to go. However, until now, we haven't received any rescue requests or coordinates from Song Chun's personal guard fleet. The only possible explanation is that, on the battlefield where Song Chun's fleet was ambushed, someone had set up equipment to interfere with long-distance communication in advance. This caused Song Chun's side to be unable to send out rescue messages or coordinate locations as planned. If that's true, then the situation becomes very serious. Even if other parts of the plan succeed, if something happens to Song Chun, it could cause big problems for the Star Alliance. Maybe we can predict the route based on the leader's personal guard reported flight path. We could send out our fleet in different directions and try to find the missing leader's guard fleet. One officer suggested. But soon, another officer disagreed. This plan won't work. We can try to narrow down the area based on timing and the flight path, but in space, that area is still very large. If we're lucky, we might find the leader's guard fleet by chance, but the chances are very low. Also, once we split our forces, even if we find the ambush coordinates, it's very likely we won't be able to break through. And the T6 illusion spirits we use have been assigned to each fleet. Because T6 illusion spirits are rare, each support fleet only has one chance. The officers started arguing about their different ideas. Everyone be quiet. Song Qingshan shouted loudly. He kept staring at the star battle simulation. He never thought he would care so much about his brother's safety one day. Give me some news. Please, just give me some information. You used to love causing big, shocking events. Why are you silent now? Hurry up and make some noise. Song Qingshan was muttering to himself, his fists clenched tightly. It was clear he was very nervous. Sir, "We just received a communication from an interstellar fighter," a communications officer shouted. "What did it say?" Song Qingshan suddenly looked up. "It's all here." The officer displayed the message on the screen in front of Song Qingshan. It was a distress signal. It included coordinates and details about the current situation of the leader's personal fleet. They were surrounded by enemies, with 3 powerful family fleets involved. Over 10,000 starships were attacking Song Chen's personal fleet. There was also communication interference. "Send this coordinate immediately. Prepare for space teleportation. Do it as fast as you can," Song Qingshan shouted at his deputy and staff officers. Next, the entire bridge operated at an unprecedented speed. Everyone knew what time it was and didn't dare to relax. Soon, many T6 Illusion Ferry ships, which had been prepared earlier, transported fleets to the target location. This included Song Qingshan's flagship. Originally, Song Qingshan was supposed to be the overall commander, staying in the back. But after the recent disappearance of Star Alliance leader Song Chun, he had no mood to stay behind. He didn't like Song Chun, but he couldn't let him die, at least not in front of him. After a brief dizziness, his fleet successfully completed the space jump and arrived at the target coordinates. At this moment, the Starship Radar Department also reported, "Sir, we have detected a star battlefield in the // direction of our fleet." Hearing this report, without hesitation, Song Qingshan ordered, "Send commands to the entire fleet. Support at full speed. No matter the formation, first ensure the safety of Leader Song." This time, the support for Song Chun was provided by 3 fleets, totaling nearly 10,000 interstellar warships. The 3 fleets, like a trident, rushed to the battlefield as fast as possible. The carrier starships ignored the distance of the battle. As long as interstellar fighters and drones could reach, they were immediately dispatched. Fast interstellar cruisers led the charge, followed by interstellar escort ships and battleship cruisers. Slower ships tried to keep up as best they could. It was like a huge wave sweeping over everything. Under this strong support, Song Qingshan quickly arrived near the battlefield. The fight was intense. Many interstellar warships surrounded a specific area. All of Song Chen's personal guard fleet's ships were there, along with wreckage from ships that had been destroyed. Originally, the guard fleet had about 3,000 ships, but now nearly half were lost. Remember, these were all T5 interstellar warships, with some nearly T6. It was clear how fierce the attack had been. Among the attackers were enemies from a different universe. Seeing the elite fleets of the 3 families, Song Qingshan clenched his teeth in anger. "Open fire. Take down these traitors." Compared to the enemies from another universe, Song Qingshan hated the traitors from the Star Alliance families even more. The enemies from the other universe were opponents, enemies on the battlefield. No matter what tactics they used, they could be called strategic. For example, Song Qingshan himself had launched a surprise attack on an important enemy base behind their lines. It was very reasonable for the enemy to carry out a decapitation plan against Song Chun, the leader of the Star Alliance. However, these 3 families are part of the Star Alliance. They have betrayed the Star Alliance and their allies for their own gain. This is the behavior that Song Qingshan despises the most. As a result, the fleets of those 3 families also launched the fiercest attacks. Thanks to the arrival of Song Qingshan's reinforcements, the battlefield situation changed greatly. Song Chen sat in the captain's chair, watching Song Qingshan's fleet approach. He smiled faintly and said, "My brother still cares about me, it seems. I sent several communication requests, but almost all of them were rejected." Now, an uneasy feeling filled his mind. For these guys from the Hamos universe, this failed sneak attack was just a failure. Their Hamos universe could plan again and try next time. But their 3 big families didn't have a second chance. "Damn savages, I knew they wouldn't trust us." Murong Xiao was furious. But this time he was wrong. The Hamos universe fleet suddenly went crazy and charged at the defending Song Chen fleet. Their battle formation didn't care about casualties, as if they were sending themselves to death. Someone noticed what was happening on the battlefield. The remaining interstellar warships of the Hamos universe fleet began to attack the defense position at all costs. If the frontline ships were destroyed, the ships behind would not hesitate to finish off their own allies. The reason was that they couldn't block the navigation channels. Even if some crew members survived on those ships, they still fought desperately. What are they trying to do? Murong Xiao was stunned, staring blankly at the scene. At that moment, he remembered a conversation before the operation with the commander of the Hamos fleet. That alien species, looking like a savage. He had said one last thing. In the Hamos Warriors Dictionary, there are only two options: complete the mission or die. So what are they doing now? Soon, the answer was revealed. After the Hamos fleet pushed into a certain range of Song Chen's guard fleet, suddenly, one after another, the ships started self-destructing. Everyone was stunned by this scene. What was going on? Song Chen didn't understand either. Meanwhile, Zhao Chun was quietly monitoring the battlefield data. He also noticed this strange scene. When he used his secret methods to check some data, he noticed something was wrong. The space around the exploded enemy starships was very unusual. Normally, the energy from a starship's self-destruction would cause some space vibrations, but not this intense. Otherwise, during the battle with hundreds of thousands of starships, the universe might have been easily torn apart. So the self-destruction of these starships was definitely abnormal. But Zhao Chen wasn't sure what the enemy's true goal was, until he saw a certain value reach a critical point and match the frequency of another. The enemy was creating a wormhole at the position of the escort fleet. Zhao Chen was shocked. He didn't expect such advanced technology to exist in this universe. First, they used their own starships, enhanced with some secret technology, to self-destruct in a specific area, causing the space to loosen. Then, they used a secret weapon mounted on one of the starships to directly create a wormhole in that space. It's important to know that temporary wormholes are very unstable. Starships pulled into them could be torn apart by space turbulence. This was the enemy's plan. A desperate, all-or-nothing plan. Zhao Chun understood the enemy's goal, but he had no other options. He could only quickly run to the combat hangar. At the same time, he sent a command to all starship pilots. Everyone immediately board your starships. If anything happens, activate the emergency departure procedure. This was the only thing Zhao Chen could do. Although Song Qingshan asked Zhao Chun to protect Song Chun, Zhao Chen's role here was just that of a starship pilot, a colonel, and a squadron leader. He even needed approval to enter the bridge. He could only take care of himself first. He just hoped Song Chen would be safe, or that this starship was sturdy enough. Soon, the situation Zhao Chun predicted happened. In a certain area, space began to collapse and twist. It felt like watching the floor sink in, and there was a pull that dragged everything nearby toward this area, as if trying to pull them in. Damn it, it's a wormhole, Song Chun exclaimed, noticing the situation. Hurry, break out at full speed, Song Chen ordered. If they entered the wormhole, their fate would be uncertain. Right now, the position of Song Chen's flagship was very awkward. Because of previous considerations, the flagship was placed in the middle of the defense line, which was the safest spot before. But now, the wormhole appeared right there. To escape, the friendly ships around needed to break through first. Moreover, the enemy's starships were rushing in all at once, leaving no chance to escape. This scene was strangely odd. Inside, people wanted to go out. Outside, enemies wanted to come in. It was as if the roles had suddenly reversed. Report, Black Rose ship number 1 is being pulled by the wormhole's gravity and is losing speed. The officer hurriedly reported. Song Chen sat calmly on the captain's chair. He took a deep breath and said, "Send all the files I prepared to Song Qingshan. Then, we can only hope for luck." The situation was what it was. From now on, it was up to fate. Warning. The energy of the star shield on the fighter jet is rapidly decreasing. 37%, 31%, 27%. Warning. The engine is overloaded. Warning. Power is failing. Warning. The fighter jet is about to crash, about to crash. Zhao Chen suddenly woke up, looking around. Everywhere was filled with black smoke, and he was hanging from a tree. Why does it feel like his feet are warm? Zhao Chen looked down and saw that his foot was being sucked on by a strange creature that looked like a large flower. It kept pulling him down from the tree. Seeing the moving mouth of the big flower, Zhao Chun felt very sick. He reached into his waist and took out his portable lightsaber hilt. With a flick of his mind, a huge sword appeared and cut the strange flower creature in half. Zhao Chun looked up and saw his parachute hanging on the tree, which prevented him from falling directly to the ground. He shrank his lightsaber and cut the parachute's rope. His body immediately fell to the ground. Zhao Chen looked at the corpse of the big flower creature and then at the slime on his shoes. This creature was probably a plant that swallowed its prey and digested it slowly inside. Zhao Chen checked himself from head to toe. Besides his shoes being a little wet, he had no injuries, possibly healed during his unconsciousness. The only weapon he had was his lightsaber. As a starship pilot, he couldn't carry many weapons like ordinary space soldiers. Some emergency gear was also on the starship. Zhao Chen looked around first to make sure there were no enemies nearby. Then he looked for a sturdy tree. It was probably a tree, but made of unknown black stone and at least tall. Zhao Chen quickly climbed to the top of the stone tree. He then began to look around. He saw black smoke rising from the ground everywhere. Some of it was close, and he could see that the smoke was coming from starships, fighters, shuttles, or escape pods. Above the clouds, he saw several starships on fire falling from the sky. These starships were all enemy ships. Previous memories gradually returned to Zhao Chen's mind. Originally, the Star Alliance Guard fleet was waiting for reinforcements to arrive so they could work together to destroy the enemy fleet. But unexpectedly, the enemy had mastered a black technology that could create a wormhole under certain conditions. Unfortunately, the Black Rose No. 1 ship, where Zhao Chen was caught by this wormhole and pulled inside. Soon after, many other starships were also sucked into the wormhole. Some ships were torn apart in the chaotic space inside the wormhole. After a brief period of chaos, the Black Rose No. 1 ship found a window in the wormhole space. In that situation, it was a life-saving chance. The ship didn't care where the window led. It headed straight toward it. Finally, it plunged into the window. Surprisingly, they actually managed to escape the wormhole space. However, they had no idea where their universe was now. Additionally, after experiencing the chaos inside the wormhole, many systems on the Black Rose No. 1 ship were damaged, especially the energy engines and communication devices. This meant the ship could no longer contact the outside world or navigate. And this was not the worst part. Unexpectedly, more than 10 enemy starships from another universe arrived here. Those enemy ships were also badly damaged. In the end, both sides fought desperately. Fortunately, the enemies were all T5 level starships, and the Black Rose No. 1 ship successfully destroyed them all. But at the same time, the Black Rose No. 1 ship was heavily damaged, with no part of the hull intact. It was also losing control and heading toward the surface of the nearest planet. In this situation, an uncontrolled starship crashing onto a planet is like a meteorite falling. It would be disastrous. So, the command was immediately given on the Black Rose No. 1 ship for all crew members to abandon the ship and evacuate. As an interstellar fighter pilot, Zhao Chen naturally had an advantage in this situation. He directly piloted his starfighter to retreat. But unexpectedly, the enemies were relentless. Although the enemy's interstellar battleship was destroyed, many of their starfighters, drones, and shuttles survived. They saw the about-to-fall Black Rose No. 1 ship, and, like wolves smelling blood, swarmed toward it. They attacked anyone trying to escape from the ship at all costs. Zhao Chen was targeted by the enemies. His flying skills were quite good, but he was outnumbered, and his starfighter was running low on energy. After destroying about a dozen enemy fighters, Zhao Chen had no choice but to fly his starfighter to this place and parachute out for safety. His starfighter had lost control and couldn't land normally. Fortunately, Zhao Chen flew far enough away. Otherwise, if the crash site was close to the Black Rose No. 1 ship, the shockwave from the impact could have destroyed everything nearby. I don't know where the Black Rose No. 1 ship fell. If it landed on land, that would be easier to handle, but if it fell into the ocean, it could cause a tsunami. But I haven't seen the wreckage of the Black Rose No. 1 ship here, so it's probably far from my location. Zhao Chen looked around. Indeed, he didn't see any wreckage of the ship. The Black Rose No. 1 was a nearly T6 class interstellar battleship, about dozens of kilometers long. If it had fallen nearby, there would still be fire and smoke. If it was close, Zhao Chen wouldn't have missed it. Unexpectedly, it ended up in this situation. Falling on an unknown planet, in an unknown star system, in a place I don't recognize, Zhao Chen sat on top of a tree, sighing deeply. System, oh system, ever since you went silent, my luck has turned bad. Could it be that you stole my good fortune? At this moment, Zhao Chen couldn't help but complain. Then, Zhao Chun noticed strange movements in the sky. A few flying vehicles were fleeing, with many others chasing behind. The ones fleeing were from the Star Alliance, while the pursuers were enemy ships. Zhao Chun saw that most of the fleeing Star Alliance ships were protecting the one flying at the front. He guessed what was happening. Suddenly, several explosions sounded. Some of the Star Alliance ships were destroyed. The frontmost ship was hit, but did not explode immediately. It was covered in thick smoke and falling toward Zhao Chun. "Don't come at me." Zhao Chun immediately jumped down from the stone tree and started running. Although his body had been strengthened, he couldn't guarantee it could withstand the impact of a high-speed crash. If he got hurt now, it would be very dangerous. He didn't know if the pursuing ship had targeting locks. It was charging straight at him, moving left when he moved left, right when he moved right. It was about to catch him. Zhao Chun saw a canyon ahead and didn't think much. He leapt into the air. The canyon was very deep, about 100 meters high. During his fall, Zhao Chun used his light sword multiple times to push against the cliff wall and slow his descent. He landed safely. "Hopefully, it won't come after me now." Zhao Chun looked up. He saw a dark object falling from above. "God damn it." A loud bang, dust flying everywhere. "Ugh, gross." Zhao Chun was covered in sand and water mixed with dirt in his mouth. Zhao Chun froze. The crashed vehicle was actually a round-shaped shuttle with a machine gun mounted at the front. Right now, the gun was aiming between Zhao Chun's legs. He swallowed hard. He shifted slightly to the side. "Just don't accidentally fire now." Suddenly, it seemed like something like a stone rolled down from below the shuttle, causing it to tilt again. Zhao Chun looked grim, staring at the gun barrel just 5 millimeters away from his brother. At this moment, a figure jumped out from inside the shuttle. Cough, cough, cough. It seemed the shuttle's shaking was caused by this person's movement. The person also noticed the figure in front of the shuttle. "It's you," the other shouted, pointing at Zhao Chun. Zhao Chun stood up and looked at him. It was Song Chun, the leader of the Star Alliance. He didn't expect to see him here. "How are you?" Song Chun started to speak. Suddenly, the sound of the shuttle reached their ears. Zhao Chun quickly grabbed Song Chun's arm and led him toward a cave beside the cliff. He had already noticed that there were many caves on both sides of the valley below. "Run for your life," Zhao Chun said, pulling Song Chun into the cave. He also grabbed the emergency supplies bag from the crashed shuttle. Soon, the two disappeared inside the cave. Meanwhile, several other shuttles that were chasing them saw the crashed shuttle below, but they didn't find their target inside. One heavily armed soldier, wearing full-body tech armor, used a communication channel to report. "We found the escape shuttle of the target leader. It crashed in the valley of planet YY01, but no sign of the target's body. They are probably hiding inside one of the caves in the valley, requesting backup equipment and personnel for search, or use heavy firepower to cover the area with a large-scale attack." In a pitch-dark cave, Zhao Chun took out a glow stick from the emergency backpack he had grabbed from the escape shuttle earlier. He gently twisted it, and the small area around him suddenly lit up. "Fortunately, there's a cave here. Otherwise, we would really have died outside," Zhao Chun said, looking at Song Chun. Song Chun also looked quite disheveled. Although he was wearing a special military uniform, he was covered in dust from the shuttle's crash just now. "We need to find a way to contact the Star Alliance. Hiding here isn't a good idea. If we don't escape quickly, they will come looking for us. They might send reconnaissance robots or launch a direct attack with heavy firepower. The latter would take some time to prepare," Song Chun said calmly, regaining his usual composure. "And it won't be long before enemy starships arrive. When that happens, we really won't have anywhere to run," he added. "How do you know all this?" Zhao Chun asked, confused. Song Chun looked at Zhao Chun. Usually, he wouldn't explain so much to his subordinates, but perhaps because Zhao Chun had just saved him, he explained, "Before our Black Rose No. 1 ship crashed, we discovered that there was an enemy space station in this star system. But there are no large starports or facilities here. So, this place is probably inside enemy territory, but quite remote. It only has basic facilities like a small space station. The pursuit ships chasing us are actually from nearby planets, and there are also a few T3-class starships floating outside the atmosphere." After hearing Song Chun's explanation, Zhao Chun finally understood why so many flying crafts appeared later. It turns out they had fallen into the enemy's territory, but this can be considered quite good luck. The enemy's wormhole was a completely random event. No one knew where they would end up after crossing it, or they might simply die in the space turbulence. Compared to that, being sent here was already a stroke of luck. However, the current situation is really bad. I originally thought I could hide here for a while. But now, with this bad luck charm around, Zhao Chun has no chance to hide. Then, Zhao Chun was about to speak. Song Chun interrupted first. Next, we must act quickly, at least before the enemy reinforcements arrive. We need to send a distress signal to the outside world. Before the Black Rose #1 ship crashed, I downloaded the surface data of this planet. This planet is habitable, though not advanced or wealthy. But there are still many natives, and the enemy's galactic government has established some technological facilities here, including communication stations. We need to find other survivors and form a small team. In the shortest time possible, take over that communication station and send out our intelligence. After hearing Song Chen's plan, it all sounded very reasonable. But Zhao Chen asked, "But this is enemy territory? How can you be sure the communication can reach the Star Alliance across galaxies?" Song Chen looked calmly at Zhao Chun. "Are there no people of ours in their universe?" According to Song Chen's final plan, first, try to contact the surviving Star Alliance fighters on this planet. Since they managed to survive, others probably can too. But this involves some risk. They only have handheld terminals with communication software, which can be easily monitored or detected by the enemy. Once used, they might be tracked by the enemy. So this risk is quite high. If we can successfully complete this step, it means gathering a group of Star Alliance fighters, rushing toward the nearest building related to surface communication, quickly taking control of it, and sending a help signal to the undercover agents hidden in the enemy's universe. These undercover agents will then send this important information back to the Star Alliance universe. The whole plan seems simple, but it is full of dangers. If we're not careful, Zhao Chun and Song Chun could both be lost here. When do we start? Zhao Chun asked. The enemy knows we're hiding here. They will send search teams to find us as soon as possible, Zhao Chun warned Song Chun. They might even attack this area with full firepower, Zhao Chun added. Wait a moment, Song Chun said, walking toward a dark corner nearby, doing something unknown. Zhao Chun crossed his arms and looked around. He also checked what was inside the emergency backpack. It contained 3 months' worth of emergency food, along with survival gear like tents, heating, and insulation. There were 3 medical kits, a laser gun with 3 energy magazines, a signal transmitter, mainly used to attract attention after activation, so search teams can find us. But using it now would make us easy targets. There was also a small, disposable personal star shield, a tiny piece of star shield technology for defense. After Zhao Chun finished checking these items, he saw Song Chun return with a strange expression. Did something happen? Zhao Chun asked. Nothing, Song Chun replied, looking at the items displayed. Zhao Chun handed the laser gun to Song Chun. Hold this. What about you? Song Chun asked, taking the laser gun. I'll use this, Zhao Chun said, patting the hilt of his energy sword at his waist. He also saw that Song Chun had 3 energy sword hilts hanging at his waist. The 3 sword hilts have different colors and shapes, likely custom-made by Song Chun himself. Later, I will be in front, and I will carry this star shield device, Zhao Chun said, pointing to the individual star shield. Okay, Song Chun nodded. Soon, the equipment was assigned. The supplies needed for survival were still carried by Zhao Chun. Are we leaving now? Zhao Chun asked Song Chun. He also looked at Song Chun carefully. He could sense that Song Chun had some things he hadn't told him. For example, if Song Chun was willing to give him the star shield device, it meant he probably had other similar devices on him. Otherwise, he wouldn't leave such a life-saving device behind at a critical moment. Now, let's decide which way to go, Song Chun said, opening his handheld terminal and projecting a simple map of the planet. It showed their current location. We are underground now, and using our communication devices here might not work well. So, we need to go outside first, Song Chun explained. At this moment, Zhao Chun suddenly spoke up. Actually, I think your plan could be changed a bit. Song Chun looked at Zhao Chun in surprise. Few people in his team would suggest changing a plan after it was made. From the moment they met, he could tell that Song Chun didn't have much respect for him. Instead, it felt like he was just an ordinary person. But right now, Song Chun didn't have time to think about that. Tell me your idea, Song Chun said. Zhao Chen shared his thoughts. Song Chen's eyes lit up, but he looked at Zhao Chun with some concern. Are you confident? Not 100%, but about 90% sure, Zhao Chen replied. And what about you? Do you have any issues? This time, Song Chen's competitive spirit was sparked. He snorted coldly and said, I hope you can complete your task on time. Zhao Chen smiled confidently and showed a self-assured expression. Next, they made a detailed plan, including where to go, which was very important. At this moment, Zhao Chun heard a rustling sound. It's a reconnaissance robot, Zhao Chen warned, then signaled everyone to be quiet. Follow me, Zhao Chen signed language to Song Chun. The two began moving through the cave, acting like shadows. They carefully avoided the search robots. Finally, they found an entrance to a cave. Zhao Chun and Song Chun cautiously peeked out. It was on a mountain ridge, some distance from the valley where the escape shuttle had crashed earlier. Above them, a dozen enemy flying crafts were searching back and forth, and most of the Star Alliance ships could no longer be seen. In the atmosphere, a T-3 class starship was slowly entering the atmosphere. It looks like if they can't find us, they will use their starship to attack directly with full firepower, Zhao Chen said, looking up at the starship aiming its cannon at the valley. Let's follow the first plan, Song Chun said seriously, looking at Zhao Chen. Are you sure there's no problem? Zhao Chen replied calmly. Leader, please take care of your safety. Otherwise, even if I return alive, I might face a military trial. Hearing Zhao Chen's teasing tone, Song Chun didn't mind at first. Then, they parted ways. Song Chun quietly hid among the rocks, eventually reaching a good spot. She took out a handheld device from her pocket. This was Zhao Chen's device. He operated Zhao Chen's handheld device, setting up a timer to send a communication message. This device would send a message to gather the remaining members of the Star Alliance after 10 minutes. After arranging these plans, Song Chen quickly began to retreat. About 10 minutes later, he reached the agreed mountain ridge. There, a hostile shuttle was hovering, occasionally observing the surroundings, acting like a guard watching over the area. Song Chun frowned slightly. Could it be that Zhao Chen's plan has failed? Just then, the shuttle's underside slowly opened a hatch, just enough for a person to enter. Song Chun looked around. Then with a quick flip and jump, as swift as a rabbit, he slipped inside unnoticed. Inside the shuttle, he could smell blood. There were several bodies with still wet blood. Each had only one wound, almost all fatal strikes. Song Chun looked toward the cockpit. There, he saw a figure. According to the plan, I have already sent the real coordinates, Zhao Chen said, turning to look at Song Chun. Song Chun sat beside Zhao Chun. Are you really just an interstellar fighter pilot? In response to this question, Zhao Chen slightly smiled and said calmly, Does it matter at this point? Song Chen glanced at Zhao Chun but did not ask further. So far, Zhao Chen had made some modifications to Song Chen's plan. Originally, they used the handheld device to send messages to inform the survivors of the Star Alliance, which risked exposure. So Zhao Chun decided to create a distraction. It looked like he was communicating with the Star Alliance survivors using the handheld device. But in reality, that was just a false front. The real plan was for Zhao Chun to secretly ambush an enemy shuttle during this time, and then send an encrypted message using the communication channel inside the enemy shuttle. Although this might reduce the number of surviving members of the Star Alliance who receive the message, it was the safest way to keep the mission secret. To gather more people, I set up 3 meeting points on the surface of this planet, Zhao Chen said, a task window appearing in front of him. The task was simple. Find a suspected enemy communication channel outside a certain valley, and all shuttles nearby should go to investigate. This was where Song Chun had left his device earlier. Should we go straight there? Song Chen asked, unknowingly starting to seek Zhao Chen's opinion. Rushing to leave now might make the enemy suspicious. We should complete this task first, and then look for other opportunities, Zhao Chen said, following the enemy's orders, piloting the shuttle toward the coordinate. Above the coordinate, several shuttles were already hovering. Some soldiers had landed, but besides one holding a device, no one else was visible. As a result, the higher-ups' orders changed to expand the search around this location. Zhao Chun received a new search direction, which happened to be toward one of the 3 meeting points. Next, it was time for the second phase, Zhao Chun said, calmly flying the shuttle. Soon, the shuttle hovered over a dense forest. Because of the thick greenery, It was hard to see if anyone was below. At this moment, an enemy soldier in uniform jumped down from the shuttle and landed directly in the forest. The soldier looked around. "Come out," he said, but there was still no movement around him. At this moment, the soldier finally took off his helmet, revealing his true face as he peeked at Song Chun. Suddenly, voices came from around. Then, a group of surviving Star Alliance soldiers appeared in Song Chen's view. "Leader." "Great, the leader is safe." Song Chen looked around and recognized a familiar officer from the bridge. "Leader." The officer stepped forward eagerly and saluted Song Chen. Soon, the shuttle hovered above a tree. "You all need to hide your figures as much as possible and quickly get into the shuttle. Understand?" Song Chen reminded them. "Yes." Major Luo and the nearby Star Alliance soldiers responded together. They also realized that the shuttle actually belonged to them. Soon, everyone entered the shuttle. Zhao Chen looked back and took a quick glance. There were about 13 or 15 people. The originally spacious shuttle now felt a bit crowded. Fortunately, the shuttle could carry up to 30 people fully loaded, so squeezing a few more, around 40, shouldn't be a problem. "Major Luo, you are responsible for counting everyone present and checking their weapons and gear. Also, you all need to form a temporary combat team," Song Chen said. "Yes." Major Luo immediately began working. "Report, leader. There are 15 people in this group. One has a crushed left arm and can only rely on medical drugs to stay calm. It can't be healed. The rest are fine for battle. Most carry light weapons, like laser swords, laser guns, and some high-explosive grenades." Hearing this, Song Chun frowned slightly. "No heavy weapons. Heavy weapons will be urgently needed later. But there are 2 more groups to pick up after this. Hopefully, they will have some heavy weapons on them. However, this possibility is very small, since they are only survivors and unlikely to carry heavy weapons." After about 10 minutes, the shuttle became even more crowded, with almost no one sitting. Everyone was standing. The corridor was barely wide enough for one person to pass through. 3 combat squads, a total of 38 people. Although everyone has weapons, they are all light weapons. Song Chen frowned. He raised his hand and brought up the next mission target. A communication station in a city on this planet. Within this city, there are nearly 1,000 ground soldiers and some armored ground units. Looking at these numbers alone, controlling the communication station, sending messages, and then retreating afterward will be very difficult, especially since there is an enemy T3 class starship overhead. When it arrives, it can fire a shot in just a few minutes. "Leader, you can't stay on this planet forever. I suggest we carry out this mission. You should hide somewhere safe and wait for the Allied reinforcements to arrive after receiving our message," Colonel Luo proposed. The other 2 squad leaders agreed. "Are you trying to get me to save myself at the expense of others?" Song Chen looked at them coldly. At this, everyone fell silent. Song Chen looked at the map of this planet, especially the city map. Unconsciously, a plan came to his mind. But this plan is very risky. A risky plan. This made Song Chen think of Zhao Chun, who was piloting the shuttle. "Zhao Chun, I have a plan." Song Chen sat next to Zhao Chun. Under the surprised gazes of the 3 squad leaders behind him, he discussed the combat plan with this man, who was only a colonel. "Yes, but I will choose the personnel myself," Zhao Chen said. "Okay," Song Chen nodded. "I need personal information on all of them," Zhao Chen added. Song Chen looked at the 3 team leaders behind him. "Pull up each of your team members' personal data and give it to Zhao Chun, quickly. Time is very important now. Their capture of this shuttle could be exposed at any moment." Although the 3 team leaders were confused, they quickly presented all their team members' information to Zhao Chun. Zhao Chun glanced over it. He tapped lightly on a few names. "These people are with me," Zhao Chun said. Song Chen looked over and directly named them. Zhao Jia, Shen Jiangzhe, Zhang Wenze, Wu Jinyu, Lu Haodong. Among them, Zhao Jia is also a team leader, with a rank higher than Zhao Chun, a senior colonel. "Everyone whose name is called, step forward," Song Chun said seriously. All 5 stepped out. Zhao Jia hesitated for a moment, but still stood in front of Song Chun. "Who can pilot the shuttle?" Zhao Chun sat inside the cockpit and asked the others. "I can." Someone raised their hand. "Take over and keep on this course. Just fly steadily." Zhao Chun moved aside and let that person control the ship. This way, Zhao Chun could focus on watching the 5 people. These 5 were not chosen randomly. They were carefully selected because Zhao Chen knew the next task was very important. Even Zhao Chen wasn't completely confident. They needed teammates to work together. All 5 of you will follow Zhao Chen's command from now on. He now has the same authority as me. Understand? Song Chun said right away, giving Zhao Chen a lot of power. Everyone present was surprised. How could a mere senior colonel have such authority? At this moment, Zhao Chen interrupted Song Chun. He looked sharply at the 5 people and said, "The next mission will be very risky. In fact, all 5 of you might sacrifice your lives during this mission. So, whether you want to join is entirely your choice. If you decide to withdraw now, I won't stop you. I can't make any promises to you. The only promise I can give is that if you sacrifice yourselves, you will receive the highest level of compensation and care when you return." After speaking, Zhao Chen looked at Song Chun. His eyes clearly showed his meaning. Song Chun rolled his eyes at Zhao Chen. Although he didn't object to this plan, he thought, "Can't you just tell me about this in advance?" "Yes, not just you. Everyone here. If they sacrifice themselves during the upcoming operation, as soon as I return, I will give each of the fallen the best treatment and support, guaranteed in my name as the leader of the Star Alliance." Hearing Song Chen's words, everyone present was deeply moved. Even if they died, their families' future lives could be completely worry-free. "I am willing to participate in this mission." Colonel Zhao Jie was the first to step forward and set an example. The other 4 also agreed aloud. Anyway, the situation was already very bad. If their plans failed, they would all die here. If they tried to save themselves and Song Chun died, they wouldn't have a good outcome when they returned. Rather than waiting for that to happen, it was better to seize this opportunity now. Zhao Chen looked at these 5 people. The reason he chose them was simple. They all had real combat experience in land battles. Most of the others were just starship crew members, skilled at operating starships. But when it came to close combat with enemies in real life, they lacked experience. During training, they used laser guns to shoot at virtual enemies. However, practice is not the same as real combat experience. Zhao Jie, in this situation, was once a captain of the interstellar ground forces. He earned his position on the bridge through real military achievements. Give 5 of them a simple set of armor each, along with 2 laser guns and 10 energy magazines. Also, 5 grenades for each person, Zhao Chen instructed. This setup meant that 1/3 of their weapons and ammunition were handed over to these 5 people. If you are good at using lightsabers, you can choose to take some, Zhao Chen added. There are no individual exoskeleton combat suits here, but there are some basic armor equipment. The 5 quickly put on their gear. At this moment, Song Chun handed Zhao Chen a red-hilted lightsaber. Zhao Chen looked at Song Chun with curiosity. Song Chun explained, "This is a special lightsaber that uses minimal mental energy, but delivers maximum power. Since you are good at using lightsabers, you should take this." Zhao Chen didn't refuse. Having a little more combat ability could make his plan go more smoothly. "Write it down and follow the plan," Zhao Chen said to Song Chun. Then, the shuttle quietly flew toward a corner of the target city, following the instructions. Since it was their own shuttle, the city's garrison didn't suspect anything, only sending a query. Zhao Chun ordered the pilot to resume the search for escapees from the Star Alliance in the area. After receiving this order, the city's garrison didn't ask further questions. Arrived above the target location. "The enemy's mech unit is stationed below," the pilot reported. "Should we land?" "Don't land. Landing would only raise suspicion. Fly to about 50 meters above the ground." "We'll jump down directly," Zhao Chen said. "Are we at 100 meters above the ground?" "We don't have parachutes," one of the 5 people worriedly said. Another fully armed soldier frowned and said, "We don't have personal exoskeleton combat armor, only simple protective gear. Jumping from 100 meters will likely cause injuries or broken bones, even if we survive. This makes our next battle plan very difficult." Zhao Chen frowned and looked at Colonel Zhao Jie. "Is this your skill, given your background in the Interstellar Army?" This was actually Zhao Chen's way of provoking him. But for men, it was very effective. Colonel Zhao Jie looked at the other 4 soldiers and said coldly, "When we were in military school, one of the requirements was a 20-meter jump without equipment. That was passing. Now, we are at 100 meters. But there are many ways to slow our fall during parachuting. Have you all forgotten these tactics and techniques?" Hearing Colonel Zhao Jie's scolding, the 4 soldiers fell silent and then obediently stood at the hatch. Open the hatch and prepare to wait for my command. We will parachute together. The hatch of the shuttle slowly opened, revealing a gap. Below was a cityscape with only a few streetlights and lighting fixtures. Unknowingly, it had become dark outside, the night on this planet. Remember to avoid enemy surveillance devices and delay exposing our movements as long as possible. Our mission is simple. Infiltrate the enemy's mech base and reach the mech storage as quickly as possible. Zhao Chun pointed to the largest building that looked like a warehouse. But most mechs are password protected, and without the proper ID cards and authentication, they can't be activated. Colonel Zhao Jie asked worriedly, I will handle that. Zhao Chun spoke. Colonel Zhao Jie frowned and was about to say something. He was interrupted by Song Chun, who said, Follow Zhao Chun's orders. Everyone in your team must obey Zhao Chun's commands without question. Don't make me repeat this a third time. Hearing the leader, Colonel Zhao Jie could only hold back his words. Try to land in this area, at the bottom of the tall building in Zone A. Any questions? Zhao Chun looked at the 5 people. No problem, they replied. However, one of them swallowed hard, as it was 100 meters high. Begin the operation. As soon as Zhao Chun finished speaking, he led the way to the cockpit. Then, the 5 followed and jumped down. The soldiers inside the cockpit watched the group leap, and some broke out in cold sweat. They were wearing simple armor, with no extra landing gear. Just jumping from such a height meant they could be seriously injured or worse. In previous similar missions, soldiers wore exoskeleton combat armor and carried disposable parachutes to slow their fall and land safely. Zhao Chun adjusted his body in midair to control his descent. He was getting closer to the tall building. His speed was very fast now, and even Zhao Chun knew that falling at this rate was dangerous. Just as he was about to hit the building, Zhao Chun pulled out his energy sword and activated his mental power. The sword's blade shot out and stabbed into the building. From earlier observations, most of the building's exterior was made of stone-like material. The side they chose to land on had no glass, so it wouldn't cause much reflection or noise. This sudden action slowed Zhao Chun's fall sharply, but in the next second, he retracted his energy sword. If he kept rubbing against the building to slow down, the sparks and fire might attract the enemy's attention. Afterward, Zhao Chun used this method 3 more times to slow himself down. Finally, he smoothly reached a position about 10 meters above the ground. But he didn't land immediately. Instead, he looked up at the sky. In the dark night, his gaze was sharp like a fierce eagle, quickly spotting the silhouettes of the other 5 people. Zhao Jie's actions went smoothly. He had learned from Zhao Chun and landed safely. The remaining few, despite stumbling, also managed to land without major issues. However, one person's fall was noticeably faster. Perhaps due to nervousness, he couldn't stabilize his energy sword. At that speed, falling to the ground could be dangerous, possibly causing a big commotion. Zhao Chun's eyes sharpened. He suddenly activated his energy sword, which extended rapidly. At the moment he met the soldier, Zhao Chun lifted him up effortlessly. Then, he landed steadily on the ground. Wow, that was amazing. Could that colonel be from the interstellar combat team? I heard he's a pilot of interstellar fighters, maybe even a top ace. Did you see that? The sword's length suddenly increased to about 10 meters. Listening to the soldiers' chatter inside the cockpit, Song Chun kept his eyes fixed on the figure in the night. He previously claimed he could activate a 40-meter-long sword, which was probably just luck. He could really hide his true strength. Who exactly is he? Why is he appearing in my fleet? What is his real purpose? After this mission ends, I will make him explain everything. Song Chun, the leader of the Star Alliance, had already set his sights on Zhao Chun. Following the original plan, he looked at his shuttle pilot. The shuttle's hatch closed, and it slowly flew toward the other side of the city, where the interstellar communication tower was located, an essential point for their mission. Check your equipment and your own condition, Zhao Chun said, looking at the 5 members of the team. Number 1 is okay. Number 2 is okay. Number 3 has a cramp in his foot. Let me rest for a bit. Number 4, ugh, I need to vomit. Number 5, gulp, I'm fine. Number 5 was the person Zhao Chun had just rescued. Without Zhao Chun's help, he might have fallen hard to the ground. What's wrong with you all? Weren't you all star soldiers in the interstellar army? Zhao Jie looked at them and felt a bit ashamed. He knew their backgrounds well. Almost all of them had served proudly in the interstellar army before. They rested in place for 3 minutes. After 3 minutes, they prepared to move out. Number 1 and Number 2. Stay alert to your surroundings, Zhao Chun said coldly. Number 1 was Zhao Jie, and Number 2 was another former elite team leader. 3 minutes had passed. It was about time they reached the next mission site. Zhao Chun looked in the direction of their camp. Within 300 meters in that direction was the battle mech camp, where the mechs were stored. Their task was to go there, make some noise, and attract the attention of the city's patrol troops. This was to create an opportunity for Song Chen's team to take the communications tower. Because the tower had stronger defenses, a normal attack wouldn't work easily. They needed heavy firepower. Song Chen had thought of this before and considered the mech base, but he wasn't confident enough. So he asked Zhao Chun for his opinion. Song Chen's plan was good, but it needed one person to carry it out. That person was Zhao Chun. He agreed to the plan and would be responsible for carrying it out. 3 minutes of rest time is over. Proceed according to the original plan. Zhao Chun looked at the 5 team members and said, "Remember, during the upcoming action, I will not stop moving. If someone gets hurt or falls behind, understand?" Understood. The 5 team members replied softly but firmly. Get ready to move out. Draw the enemy's attention and take control of their mechs. 6 people moved forward like ghosts. Because they weren't wearing individual combat exoskeleton armor, their movements were more hidden. Zhao Jie and the others stayed close behind Zhao Chun. Suddenly, Zhao Chun stopped at a spot and made a stop gesture. The other 5 immediately halted. But their position was very awkward. There was only a cylindrical device nearby, like a water tank, which could be used for cover. If they stayed here too long, they might be exposed. Zhao Jie wanted to speak. At that moment, a beam of light shone on the path they were about to take. It was from a guard on a distant watchtower. This made Zhao Jie swallow hard. If they had continued walking, they might have been spotted, and they were still some distance from the mech storage. It was very dangerous. Time passed slowly. The light gradually moved away. At this moment, Zhao Chun raised his hand and slowly pointed forward, signaling to continue. Then, Zhao Chun was the first to dash out, lowering his body so he was almost parallel to the ground. He moved very quickly. The other 5, almost transforming their running style to keep up, barely managed to follow Zhao Chen's speed. They stopped again at another spot. Zhao Jie was a bit out of breath, and one soldier behind him was sweating on his forehead. But Zhao Chen remained calm and unbothered. It seems that the running just now was probably easy for this man. Maybe he was simply waiting for them. At this moment, Zhao Chun pointed to the hiding spot of their cover. One soldier immediately understood and placed a timed bomb there. Everyone moved carefully, leaving small gifts for the enemy camp now and then. Finally, Zhao Chun stopped walking. They were still 100 meters away from the mech warehouse, which was the last stretch. But within this 100 meters, everything was brightly lit, with no obstacles in the way. Nearby, a guard post had a machine gun aimed at the open area. As an important military site for the mech unit, everyone knew how important the warehouse was. So, it was normal to have top-level security. Zhao Jie swallowed hard. Looking at the 100 meters ahead, he knew it was a dangerous zone. Most of them might die before reaching it. Maybe only this man in front had a chance. Perhaps he gathered these 5 people to use them as bait in this mission. Even though they knew the risks, they were soldiers, and obeying orders was their duty. Moreover, Zhao Chun had secured the best compensation for them. As soldiers, that was enough. In this last 100 meters, we will be the bait, Zhao Jie said bravely. But Zhao Chun interrupted him. He slowly scanned the area with his eyes. He already knew this mech base well, thanks to the star map provided earlier by Song Chun and the view from the shuttle. In his mind, he had a detailed plan. That's why he could act precisely and avoid enemy detection at every step. We have 2 minutes left. The explosive devices we set aside will be triggered. In that moment, I will run to the mech storage. And your task, 5 of you, is to watch those 3 points. Look at that one, and that one. Have you located all 3 points? Zhao Chun pointed to a high guard post and 2 cover-based firing positions. At these 3 points, the enemy probably has about a squad of soldiers, around 5 people. I need you 5 to split into 3 groups. While I go out to draw enemy fire, you quietly sneak to these 3 points and eliminate the enemy fighters there. Then, cover fire against all enemy units trying to enter the mech storage. Once I am inside the storage, Give me 3 minutes. After speaking, Zhao Chen looked at the 5. You all used to be elite members of the interstellar ground forces. That's why I chose you. This task is not a problem for you. Now, tell me, can you do it? Yes. The 5 replied firmly in a low voice. Divide the tasks among yourselves. You have 100 seconds, Zhao Chen said. Before anyone else could speak, Zhao Jie pointed to the highest guard post and said, that one is mine. The other 4 of you split into 2 groups. I was once the top squad of the Star Alliance's ground forces. I've carried out 13 starship invasion missions and 5 planetary invasions. You kids, don't try to compete with me. Zhao Jie sneered. The other 4, helpless, knew Zhao Jie had the highest rank here, and without Zhao Chen's orders, they could only honestly assign their tasks. In the end, the 5 split into 3 groups, with Colonel Zhao Jie leading one alone. I will go out first. After 10 seconds, you all move. I'll suggest a few routes, but the actual execution still depends on you. Zhao Chen looked at the 5 people one last time, then silently turned his head to face the mech warehouse across from him. See you later. Colonel Zhao Jie chuckled and patted 2 comrades beside him. When we meet again, I'll treat you to drinks. If the colonel says so, then we must celebrate until we're all drunk. As he finished speaking, everyone's face showed a serious expression. These people seemed to be transported back to their days in the interstellar army. They assumed their battle stances. Some held laser guns. Others held a laser gun in one hand and a light sword handle in the other. As members of the interstellar army, everyone was skilled with light swords. It was a required skill for them. Suddenly, there was an explosion in the mech camp. The continuous blasts not only drew the attention of the station soldiers, but also shook the city, breaking the quiet of the night. On the other side of the city, above a communication tower, a shuttle hovered there. Song Chen looked through the window and saw the flashes of fire from the explosions. He looked serious as he watched this scene. He knew this was a sign that the plan had begun. Zhao Chen's side had already started moving. Song Chen took a deep breath and looked at the shuttle pilot. After 3 minutes, you know what to do. Understood. The pilot replied loudly. Song Chen turned to the soldiers inside the cabin. Everyone listen up. Get ready for battle. At this moment, the surrounding combat guards also noticed the sudden appearance of this person. After a brief moment of surprise, countless bullets and gunfire rained down on Zhao Chen. At this time, Zhao Chen had 2 new items in his hands. For smoke grenades. These were weapons and equipment gathered earlier by everyone. He threw the 4 smoke grenades, which immediately released white smoke, completely hiding Zhao Chen's figure. However, the dense gunfire continued to cover the white smoke. Seeing this, Zhao Jie and the others were terrified. If it had been them, they probably would have been shot to pieces by now. It's our turn. Zhao Jie swallowed hard, worried about Zhao Chen. But he didn't forget his own mission. As a former Star Combat team ace, he knew clearly that during a mission, whether teammates survive or not, they must carry out the original plan unless given new orders from higher-ups. And now, their superior was Zhao Chen. So, their mission. Once the bow is drawn, there is no turning back. The 5 of them moved in 3 directions. They started sneaking forward. Their movements were not as fast as Zhao Chen's, and they kept looking for cover. Because Zhao Chen was attracting fire, the guards at the camp didn't notice these 5 sneaky figures right under their noses. When Zhao Jie was quietly infiltrating, he also took a moment to glance toward Zhao Chen. Beyond the white smoke, a ghostly figure had already darted out. That incredible speed. The barrage of bullets behind couldn't catch up at all. He ran as if glued to the ground, and his running speed, even with a personal exoskeleton combat suit, might not be enough to catch him. Is this his full strength? Zhao Jie swallowed hard. But there was still one obstacle blocking Zhao Chen, the outer wall of the mech warehouse. It was very thick, and the door was guarded by 2 squads of combat guards. If they stormed through the main gate, they would face a barrage of gunfire from 2 machine guns, risking life and death. Unexpectedly, Zhao Chen chose the thickest wall. He took out the red energy sword that Song Chen had given him earlier. While running close to the ground, he held the sword handle in his right hand. He began to activate his mental power. In the next moment, the sword's blade appeared. The red blade looked like a blazing flame. As he got closer to the robot warehouse, Zhao Chen moved his right hand from left to right, swinging the fiery sword. He cut directly into the wall of the robot warehouse. The wall, made of special steel and about a meter thick, cracked as if hit by a starship's main cannon. This crack was just right for Zhao Qin to jump through. At that moment, all the guards watching this scene were stunned. What just happened? One person, under the firepower of at least 5 guards and 5 machine guns, he forcefully charged out at an inhuman speed. And the power of that sword breaking through the wall was even more unbelievable. Was that person just now really human? One guard soldier swallowed hard, sweating on his forehead. But no one answered him. He turned his head and saw his comrade already lying in a pool of blood. The next second, his neck was slashed by a dagger. Of course he's human, and he's our opponent. Zhao Jie took advantage of the enemy's distraction. He quietly infiltrated the high tower guard post and eliminated a squad without anyone noticing. Zhao Jie looked at the thick wall of the broken robot warehouse, feeling nothing but admiration. If Zhao Qin hadn't performed such an incredible feat, he wouldn't have been able to sneak in so smoothly. Zhao Jie looked in 2 other directions. One of the guard posts was sending out gunfire. Zhao Jie frowned. Could it be that the mission failed? At this moment, many soldiers from this camp have gathered and are rushing toward the mech warehouse. They learned that someone had broken into the mech warehouse and urgently need to support. Zhao Jie frowned. If one of the 3 combat posts fails, it will greatly affect the upcoming cover mission. Because of his high position, Zhao Jie quickly understood why Zhao Qin chose these 3 locations as targets. These 3 points form a triangular fire net around the mech warehouse. Losing any one of them would create a gap in the fire net. Just then, the machine gun at the combat post where gunfire was heard opened fire. A barrage of bullets hit the squads rushing toward the mech warehouse. Enemy soldiers fell one after another in the gunfire. These soldiers do not have the same elusive skills as Zhao Qin. Seeing this, Zhao Jie heaved a sigh of relief. At the same time, another combat post also opened fire with full strength. It seemed everyone had succeeded. Zhao Jie immediately grabbed his own machine gun and started firing at the gathering enemies below. Damn you all. I've tolerated you for so long, bringing me to this remote place. Don't you know I was just about to go back for a date? Zhao Jie roared. He wasn't joking. According to the original plan, he was supposed to have a day off in a few days. He was arranged to meet a young lady from a small family for a date. As someone from a civilian background who rose to become a senior colonel in the Star Alliance and married into some noble families, this was undoubtedly his best choice. But all of this was shattered because of the enemy fleet's ambush, that damn impulsiveness, and this cursed planet. At this moment, Zhao Jie was venting his anger without restraint. Meanwhile, on the other side, a shuttle that was hovering in the air suddenly made a sharp turn and plunged toward the top of the communication tower. The front-mounted machine gun on the shuttle kept firing. It destroyed the only weapon point on the communication tower. Then, the shuttle hovered above the tower. Soldiers jumped down one after another. Each team, carry out your own mission. Control this communication tower. We will need at least 10 minutes to send the message. Song Chun jumped off the shuttle. With these soldiers, he rushed into the tower, fighting for hope for their return journey. A squad that was already here arrived at the opening that had been cut open, but no one was seen there anymore. Hurry, find the person who sneaked in. Pull up all the camera footage from the warehouse and find this person as quickly as possible. The squad members discussed anxiously. The squad leader frowned as he looked at the communication window. What are you talking about? All the surveillance footage inside the warehouse shows no sign of the intruder. At first, when the warehouse wall was opened, dust was kicked up, and it was impossible to see if the person had entered. Now, every monitored location shows no sign of this person. The control room staff anxiously watched each screen, but indeed, they saw no sign of the intruder. How is this possible? That guy is inside the warehouse now. He's risking so much to sneak into our mech warehouse, so he must have a dangerous purpose. We must find him as soon as possible. Use thermal imaging. I don't believe he can hide from thermal scans. The squad leader ordered. Our mech warehouse only has surveillance cameras, and it doesn't have thermal imaging, the other side replied helplessly. Hearing this, the squad leader felt like punching cotton. No real progress. He was silent for a moment. Then he said, I will assign people to continue searching the warehouse. Keep watching all the surveillance footage. If you see anything suspicious, tell me immediately. I don't believe this guy can hide in this place without us noticing. All team members, listen up. Split into groups of 3. If you spot anyone suspicious, open fire to warn them. More than 100 people divided into over 30 groups, spreading out to search the warehouse for the infiltrator. No matter how they searched, they found no clues. The person in front of the monitors was sweating heavily, but still saw no suspicious individuals. The warehouse is large, but with such tight searching, how could they not find the infiltrator? Where could he be? Right now, in the most obvious spot inside the warehouse. There was a mech parked there, a near T4 combat mech. This was the only near T4 combat mech in the city. Only a few high-ranking officials had permission to operate it. Others needed special authorization to access it during repairs. No one expected that the person they were looking for was actually hiding inside this near T4 mech. Zhao Qin slowly climbed through a pipe to reach the cockpit of the mech. This was the first time he saw this mech in real life. But during the rest before the battle, Zhao Qin had studied all the battlefield data. This included the current starship and combat mechs used in the universe. This near T4 combat mech was among them. It was called the Long Spear class medium combat mech. It was a land-based combat mech. It was not a standard model but a small batch of elite mechs, built with a lot of T3 technology. However, its combat power could reach near T4 levels. As for maintaining order on a planet, compared to interstellar battleships, combat mechs often play a more active role. Therefore, this semi-T4 long spear soldier medium-sized mech can be considered the flagship of the city's mech forces. After Zhao Qin saw some information about this mech, he almost understood most of its features and technology. Even without official permission, Zhao Qin quickly and quietly sneaked in within a few seconds. Next, he needed to make the mech move. Zhao Qin sat in the cockpit. He pressed the start button. Some electronic systems inside the mech activated, but it was still dim, and nothing inside or outside was moving. Everything remained quiet. Please enter permission code, a digital voice said inside the mech. Zhao Qin obviously did not have permission. A slight smile appeared on Zhao Qin's face. He raised his hand, and a virtual keyboard appeared in front of him. His fingers then started to type quickly on the keyboard. Meanwhile, the pop-up window that said please enter permission code began to blur gradually. A minute passed. This was the time Zhao Qin and Zhao Jie agreed upon. After Zhao Qin entered the mech storage, they would give him 3 minutes. 2 minutes had already gone by. Zhao Qin didn't know what was happening outside, but he could tell that the battle was still ongoing. He could faintly hear footsteps inside the storage, those still searching for him. The footsteps were there, but they hadn't increased in number. This meant the enemies outside were still being held back by Zhao Jie and others. Permission input complete. The entire mech control interface in front of Zhao Qin lit up at that moment. At the same time, the mech's engine and power systems started to activate. It's our turn to fight back, Zhao Qin said, crossing his arms and stretching his arms. Then he sat in the cockpit. The squad soldiers inside the mech storage were searching for him. Suddenly, he heard a sound and looked in the direction it came from. He saw no one there. But soon, he realized something was wrong. There was a medium-sized combat robot, a T4 spear soldier type, parked nearby. A bright light appeared at its head, showing it had started up. Then, a machine gun on its chest lifted up. The spear soldier has activated. The soldier suddenly shouted sharply. At that moment, everyone noticed the medium combat robot. The machine gun fired a barrage of bullets, sweeping across the area. The people who had been hunting Zhao Qin were now the ones being targeted. They were hit by the gunfire and fell into pools of blood splattering everywhere. The parked mechs were destroyed one by one. The scene was full of fighting and chaos inside the mech storage. Damn, how does he know how to operate this spear soldier? The team leader shouted in panic as he ran toward the door. He had been hiding here, but now he was doomed to be killed. He couldn't understand how that man could control a spear soldier that required special permission. All he could think about now was escaping. Just as he was about to run out of the mech storage, a barrage of bullets shattered his body in an instant. His body was left in a pool of blood. Damn, there are so many people here. Zhao Jie heard gunfire nearby and had to hide behind cover. The enemy's attack was too dense, and he had no chance to peek out. Their firepower had completely suppressed him. Don't just stand there, support with fire. Zhao Jie shouted through his communication device. Now that they had been exposed, the 5 of them no longer needed to stay silent. The other 2 groups were also in a bad situation, according to the reports on their communication devices. Please wait a moment, I am on it. One of the combat sentry positions was finally cleared. Suddenly, there was a loud explosion, and the sound was gone. Zhao Jie was stunned, then carefully looked toward that sentry position. The original appearance of the sentry was no longer visible. Only a smoky area remained, with people and weapons completely changed. Damn! The enemy used a portable missile. Another soldier at the sentry shouted angrily. A portable missile. It seems the enemy's heavy weapons have arrived to support them. In this situation, it's only a matter of time before these sentries are overwhelmed. Their shelters can withstand enemy bullets and laser beams. But heavy firepower is another story. Just one shot is enough. A self-propelled artillery vehicle has it aimed at you. At this moment, another team's panicked voice came through the communication channel. Zhao Jie seemed to sense something. He turned his head and looked through a vantage point, seeing the self-propelled artillery targeting him. The dark barrel was already locked onto him. He could almost see the flash of the shell being fired. At this moment, memories flooded his mind, flashing like a carousel. He was born into a civilian family. But because of his parents' jobs, he was among the top civilians, able to attend the Star Alliance Military Academy. However, without family support and needing many resources to train in large starships, he couldn't participate. He had to settle for the lowest tier of the interstellar ground forces. Fortunately, he excelled in school, and after enlisting, he survived several battles and earned military honors. He rose to the rank of colonel, the highest rank a civilian could reach. He had hoped that after this war, he could marry a young lady from a minor noble family and see if he could climb higher. Even if he could only become a colonel, he could ensure that his descendants would grow under his resources and not be as exhausted as he is. It seems he plans to stay here. Fortunately, over the years, he has provided many assets for his parents and siblings, making his family quite well off. Plus, with the promised benefits from leader Song Chun, his family can enjoy a noble lifestyle. In this way, his goal of joining the military is about 70 to 80% achieved. He saw the self-propelled gun fire, with flames coming from the barrel, indicating that a shell was on its way. Just as he was waiting for death to come, suddenly, a burst of machine gun fire sounded, and near Zhao Jie's combat post, about 10 meters away, the shell exploded. The blast wave even shook his position. Zhao Jie was stunned. What is happening? In the next moment, he noticed a very noticeable combat mech outside the mech warehouse. As a colonel of the Star Alliance, he knew about military intelligence. It was a mid-sized combat mech of the T4 level, equipped with a long spear. It belonged to an enemy universe's combat units. Colonel Zhao Chun succeeded. Zhao Jie couldn't hide his excitement. Thinking back to when Zhao Chun made his plan, he felt incredible. Stealing an enemy combat mech? Most combat mechs require special authorization to operate, and even getting one from an enemy base is very difficult. That bright long spear mech proved Colonel Zhao Chun's plan was successful. Then, the spear mech aimed its gun at the self-propelled gun. At the moment it fired, the self-propelled gun was destroyed. Although both are mechanical, they are not in the same class. With the appearance of this spear mech, the entire mech warehouse area fell into a deadly, battle-like atmosphere. The long spear soldiers' mechs have extendable shoulders with two 360 degrees adjustable gun barrels, which can move up and down within a certain range. Then, these gun barrels began to unleash their barrage recklessly. They precisely targeted all enemy positions. A massacre once again unfolded. Even soldiers hit by the attack, wearing individual exoskeleton combat armor, could not survive such an assault. Retreat! Retreat! Report! The enemy has seized our near T4 long spear soldiers. Requesting support. Requesting support. My leg. My leg. Ah! Zhao Jie watched this scene, feeling very relieved inside. He quickly returned to his position and used his obviously hot machine gun to rejoin the fight. Kill. 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 After 1 minute, within a radius of 300 meters, no enemy traces could be seen. At this moment, the long spear soldiers' machine guns finally stopped moving. Zhao Chun's communication voice appeared in front of Zhao Jie and others. Report your casualties. Hearing Zhao Chun's question, Zhao Jie and others felt a heavy weight in their hearts. But they still replied. Zhang Wenze and Wu Jinyu fought bravely at their posts and were hit by enemy soldier missiles, sacrificing themselves. Xin Jianzhou was hit by 2 bullets, but was not injured in vital organs. After injecting medical medicine, he barely managed to control the situation. After these reports, Zhao Qin remained calm. Including him, the team had 6 members. 2 dead, 1 seriously injured. This was already considered a very good result. Look around for any armored vehicles. Gather at my location within half a minute. Zhao Qin ordered. If there's enough time, bring back the bodies of Zhang Wenze and Wu Jinyu, if you can find them. Zhao Jie trembled, fighting back tears. Yes. Next, Zhao Qin looked toward the communication tower on the other side of the city. He contacted Song Chun. Leader Song, I have completed my mission. How are things on your side? Zhao Chun asked directly. From Song Chen's side, the sounds of fighting could be heard, very chaotic. Our situation is very bad. We broke through from the top of the communication tower, but quickly at the 100th floor, we were blocked by enemy heavy armor units. We can't break through easily. Song Chen's voice was anxious. Tell all your people to retreat to above the 110th floor within 30 seconds. Cover your ears, Zhao Chen said. Huh. Song Chen was surprised. But he didn't get a reply from Zhao Chun. Zhao Chun operated the spear soldier and began the next phase of the battle. When planning this mission, he also knew about the enemy's communication tower. The pre-battle information mentioned it, but it wasn't very detailed because it wasn't very important. He knew that in this type of communication tower, there was a very difficult area in the middle. Zhao Chen agreed to attack the mech units to attract the enemy's attention, but he had a different plan. Behind the spear soldier mech, a voice came, and a spear was thrown out. The spear soldier mech gripped the spear tightly. Then, it bent its body, boosting all its power to the maximum. Zhao Jie looked over there. That mech, only a quasi-T4 level, seemed to emit a kind of glow. Its entire steel body made a throwing motion. With a loud tearing sound, it created a whirlwind that blew Zhao Jie's eyes. Suddenly, a loud bang sounded. Zhao Jie squinted, enduring the discomfort, and looked to the other side of the city. There stood a communication tower. And at this moment, the tower looked very special. A large hole had been blasted in the middle of the tower, as if something had pierced through it. Zhao Jie took a deep breath. If he remembered correctly, the leader and the others should also be inside that communication tower. At this moment, Zhao Chen's voice came through all their communication channels. How are things on your side? Suddenly, there was a burst of shouting and cursing. Zhao Chun, this part wasn't in the original plan. Song Chun looked down, peering through the gap in the floorboards, and saw the damaged area below, which had been blasted open. That was originally a stronghold of the enemy, a place they had struggled to conquer before. But now, that area was completely gone. The situation changed so suddenly. If that previous attack had shifted just a little higher, they would have suffered heavy losses, and he himself might have been caught in the danger. Are there any casualties? Zhao Chen asked coldly. Song Chen checked with each squad. The reply was that no one was hurt, though some might have been affected by the sudden shock and injured. Since no one is dead and the path is clear, what's the problem? Zhao Chen said calmly. You. Song Chen realized he seemed helpless against this man several times. He wanted to curse Zhao Chen out loud, but many others could hear the communication. He could only hold back his anger. Keep moving forward. We will come to support you. Stay in contact, Zhao Chen said lightly. Understood, Song Chen replied. Leader, Zhao Chen is too arrogant. This attack wasn't even in the original plan. If something goes wrong with his attack, what about your safety? A sergeant nearby couldn't hold back and criticized. I haven't said anything, Song Chen snapped irritably. Stop panicking here. Then he looked at the empty space below. Order all squads to continue moving downward immediately. The enemy's communication control room is located around the 70th or 80th floor. The last obstacle blocking our way has now been cleared. We must seize it before the enemy destroys the communication equipment, Song Chen said coldly. Then, he kicked open the only remaining floor panel below. Beyond that is the large hole created by the explosion. They need to cross this space quickly using ropes or other methods. The simplest way is naturally with ropes. First, a few of them quickly moved across and set up secure points for the ropes. Song Chun then followed closely, sliding down quickly. During the process, Song Chun looked toward the city mech unit's base. He saw the sky filled with fire and smoke. It's hard to imagine how Zhao Chun, with only 6 people, caused such chaos. And from such a distance, he managed to provide such precise support. Who is that man? Really, what kind of person is he? Gulp, Colonel Zhao. Was your attack just now too reckless? After all, the leader is right there. Zhao Jie, driving an armored vehicle, reached the medium combat mech of Zhao Chen's T4 long-gun soldier type, still feeling nervous about the attack. The result was good, and considering the situation at the time, they didn't have heavy firepower, so they couldn't break through 100 layers of defenses quickly. Instead of letting them waste their forces there, it was better to take a risk. And I am about 70 to 80% confident. Zhao Chen replied calmly. Zhao Jie really didn't know where Zhao Chun got his confidence from, but at least the outcome matched his words. Are you ready? Zhao Chen asked. We found an armored vehicle. It's equipped with a machine gun and 4 mini-missiles. We also gathered some weapons, like guns and grenades, Zhao Jie said. Then let's go. I'll lead the way in front, and you follow behind. If you encounter battle, your first priority should be to take care of yourselves, Zhao Chen calmly said. Although Zhao Chen sometimes fights in a very reckless and rough way, now Zhao Jie and the others completely follow Zhao Chen's orders. Even if they have to carry out a command that might lead to their death, they would do it without hesitation. Perhaps this is a kind of trust built through life and death situations. On the way to the communication tower, Zhao Chun and his team did not face much resistance. After all, there weren't many troops stationed in this city initially. When the battle started, many troops rushed to the mech base and were then slaughtered by the spear soldiers controlled by Zhao Chun. The remaining soldiers probably received the message that the communication tower was attacked and requested support. So, on the way, there were few soldiers seen. Zhao Chun looked up into the sky. The threat within this city might be gone, but the real danger of this battle had not yet arrived. That was the enemy's interstellar warship. He wasn't sure about outside the atmosphere. He also didn't know if the enemy dared to directly attack the city with orbital bombardment. Every civilization has its own way of handling such situations. In the Star Alliance, because of alien invasions, the High Command ordered orbital strikes. But in this unknown universe, perhaps their people wouldn't allow such actions. Moreover, their threat from aliens was on a different level altogether. However, Zhao Chun had seen a T3 class interstellar warship with his own eyes inside the atmosphere. Even a T3 class warship on this planet was powerful enough to wipe out everything. But there are ways to counteract it. That's why Zhao Chun agreed to go to the mech base and chose the most difficult option, a semi-T4 medium combat mech, the spear soldier. This victory is far from over. At this moment, Song Chen's voice came through the communication channel. We have already entered the enemy's communication headquarters. The technicians inside have destroyed some equipment. Currently, our technicians are checking if normal communication can be restored. Zhao Chen said nothing. He had already expected this situation. All he could do was hope that luck would be on their side. Half a minute later, Zhao Chun received a reply. Although the communication equipment is damaged, it can't support long-distance quantum communication on high frequencies, but within a few star regions, it should still work. Song Chen's words eased Zhao Chen's mind. From her tone, it seemed that within this range, there were probably spies from their organization placed in this universe. However, the equipment here is quite old. Communication takes some time, and we also need to encrypt the messages. So, it will take about 20 minutes, Song Chun said in a very serious voice. It was clear she knew how long 20 minutes felt in this situation. News of their attack on this planet had surely spread already. Many enemies might be rushing here right now. Zhao Chen activated a 20-minute countdown. I understand, 20 minutes. I hope I won't have to work overtime, Zhao Chen said calmly. Hearing Zhao Chen's tone, it seemed he had some plan. Are you confident? Within 20 minutes, I am confident. After 20 minutes, I won't be working overtime, Zhao Chen replied. At this moment, he even had time to joke with himself. Song Chen took a deep breath and said seriously, just 20 minutes. Within these 20 minutes, you can command everyone here. Actually, it's now 19 minutes and 22 seconds, Zhao Chen said. Zhao Chen didn't say anything more. He also didn't immediately give orders to Song Chen's side. because he knew there weren't many people left there either. Originally, there were over 30 people, but after the battle at the communication tower, only about half remained capable of fighting. Colonel Zhao Chun, what should we do next? The enemy will definitely send many shuttles and even starships to support them. With our current firepower, it's hard to hold them off. If only we had brought out some mechs earlier, Zhao Jie said regretfully. In his heart, he was a bit envious that Zhao Chun could pilot a mech now. That vehicle was definitely better than his ordinary armored vehicle. You don't have much experience in piloting combat mechs. Letting you drive those big machines will only make you easy targets, Zhao Chun said bluntly. Zhao Jie felt a bit embarrassed, but what Zhao Chun said was true. Piloting a mech requires special training. They only knew a little about combat mechs, and some might be able to operate training mechs to move around. But for real combat, that's a whole different level. Moreover, these are enemy universe combat mechs, and they are even less familiar with them. Thinking of this, Zhao Jie admired Zhao Chen's abilities even more and also felt confused. Why could Zhao Chen decode the enemy's mech controls so quickly and operate them so smoothly? Who exactly is Zhao Chen? He's just a colonel? Seeing Zhao Chen so young, Zhao Jie was initially skeptical about his rank. But now, he felt that the rank of colonel didn't seem to suit someone like Zhao Chen. We also need to see if the enemy cooperates with us, Zhao Chen said coldly. Huh. Zhao Jie didn't understand what Zhao Chen meant. Right now, Zhao Chun was driving a medium-sized combat mech of the T4 Lancer class and had arrived below the communication tower. There were still many enemy troops here, but under the attack of the Lancer mech, these soldiers had no chance to escape and were being slaughtered. There should still be enemy soldiers inside the communication tower. You stay here and defend. With the weapons we've gathered and this armored vehicle, it shouldn't be a problem, Zhao Chun asked Zhao Jie. No problem, Zhao Jie replied. Then he asked, what are you planning to do? Wait, Zhao Chun said with a strange expression. Suddenly, Zhao Chun controlled the Lancer mech to climb up the outside wall of the communication tower. Normally, such a heavy mech would be difficult to climb, but under Zhao Chen's control, it moved like a normal rock climber. It climbed smoothly along the wall. Zhao Jie looked up at the shrinking Lancer mech and swallowed hard. He was once again amazed by Zhao Chen's skills. This guy is almost a monster. He can pilot fighters, whether on land or in space, with top-tier skills. His personal physical strength is also terrifyingly strong, so much so that even a former interstellar marine like him feels inferior. If he could also command an interstellar battleship, he would be a true all-round talent. Zhao Jie couldn't even imagine. Inside the main control room of the communication tower, everyone felt a tremor like an earthquake. What's going on? Where is that noise coming from? Song Chen asked, puzzled. At this moment, someone outside shouted, report. A mech is climbing the outside wall of the communication tower. It looks like Colonel Zhao Chen's Lancer. Hearing this, Song Chen immediately walked over to a broken window on the wall. Without caring about the 100-meter-high drop, he leaned out to look down. He widened his pupils in disbelief. Because it was really a mech, climbing on the outside wall of the communication tower like a spider. Soon, the mech reached their location. Song Chen watched helplessly as the mech jumped over their floor and continued climbing upward. He couldn't help but ask on the communication channel, Zhao Chen, what exactly are you doing? I am just completing my task, Zhao Chen replied calmly. Completing a task by climbing a tall building with a mech? Suddenly, someone shouted, the enemy's interstellar battleship is coming. A soldier responsible for observation pointed at the distant sky, where a small that was growing larger and larger. Song Chen's face started to look worried. That was the enemy's T3 interstellar battleship. He recognized the model. On the interstellar battlefield, it was just a cannon fodder role. A T3 Hunter, a medium-sized interstellar destroyer. But here, to them, it was like a boss-level threat. At this distance, in about 3 minutes, the enemy's weapons can lock onto us. If they want, the ship's weapons can directly destroy this communication tower. Even destroying this city would be easy, Song Chen felt hopeless. Interstellar battleships are weapons that can make people despair in this era. At this moment, a video call window appeared directly in front of the communication tower. It was probably projected from soldiers hiding inside nearby buildings. The enemy soldiers, following orders, projected this image along with sound. Leader of the Star Alliance universe, I know you're here. Our king said that as long as you surrender, I can ensure your safety and that of your soldiers. Your desperate struggle here is completely futile. As long as my interstellar battleship fires its main cannon, it can destroy the communication tower. For your safety, for your universe, surrender now. Listening to the enemy's words of surrender, Song Chen remains calm. He looks at the communication signals still being sent behind him. Ignore them. Song Chen coldly watches the approaching starship. Maybe they want to capture me alive. Stay here. No matter what happens, make sure these messages are sent, Song Chen says. Then, surprisingly, he jumps out of the broken window. Sir! Several soldiers shout in surprise. But in the next moment, a rope shoots out and grabs the outside wall of the communication tower. It pulls Song Chen up quickly. At this moment, the spear robot armor is at the top of the communication building, standing tall like a giant waiting for the approaching starship. Zhao Chun, who is waiting for the starship to get closer, hears a sound. Then he sees a mechanical claw shoot up and grab the edge of the roof. With some faint sounds, a figure leaps up. Zhao Chun frowns and looks at the person in front of him. How did you get up here? Zhao Chun asks in confusion. Without using communication devices, the voice comes directly from the armor's external speakers. I guessed your plan. You're here, so you'll become the enemy's target. And I am here. They want to catch me alive, so they won't shoot at me. Song Chun points to the starship that has already spotted the armor on the roof. The main and secondary guns of the starship are locked onto Zhao Chen's spear robot armor. While speaking, Song Chun uses both hands and feet, quickly climbing onto the shoulder of Zhao Chen's armor. He holds onto the armor's head with one hand, standing on its shoulder. Because of the wind from the tall building, his clothes flutter, but his body stands straight and firm. You know, this guy really has the presence of a king. Have you made your decision? If you follow me, I can't guarantee your safety, Zhao Chen said. I'm the leader of the Star Alliance. Do I need your protection, little soldier? Song Chen smiled slightly. Zhao Chen didn't answer. But you have many secrets on you. Are you really this, Zhao Chen? Song Chen couldn't hold back anymore and asked directly as the mission was about to end. Zhao Chen also didn't respond to this question. It seems you're not just Zhao Chen. Someone can grow quickly in a short time, but they can't change completely unless they are not from this world, Song Chen said directly, hitting Zhao Chen's core. Zhao Chen was startled. Could this guy have guessed that he came from another world? Should I call you Zhao Chen, or the traveler from another world? Song Chen asked straightforwardly. Finally, Zhao Chen spoke. If I say that, aren't you worried I might just eliminate you? You wouldn't, Song Chen replied confidently. You're gambling. I'm not gambling. I just don't sense any killing intent from you. When I order full-scale orbital strikes on planets invaded by strange creatures, even my crew on the bridge sometimes have hidden intentions to kill me. But you haven't. So, you won't kill me. Or maybe, we're the same kind, Song Chen said calmly. Zhao Chen asked himself honestly. If such an invasion by some creature happened in his own universe, would he use such extreme methods? He didn't think further. Maybe the answer has always been there, just locked away somewhere, waiting for a key to open it. That key is a scene, an opportunity. Fortunately, Zhao Chen hasn't encountered this key so far. And then Song Chen encountered them. If we are not enemies, he said, I hope that after this battle is over, we can sit down and have an honest talk. Would that be okay? Song Chen turned his head, looking at the huge mech's head in front of him, as if he was making eye contact with the person inside the mech. Yes, Zhao Chen replied. It was risky, but to return quickly, Zhao Chen had a feeling that Song Chen held the answers he needed. The starship was getting closer to the communication tower. Perhaps Song Chen was right. The enemy intended to capture him alive. That's why they hadn't fired at the medium combat mech with the long gun. Instead, they sent many drones and shuttles to surround them, but they didn't attack. It looks like they really planned to capture you alive, Zhao Chen said with a light smile. Just like we understand them, they understand us. Moreover, they are working with some conservative noble families. Naturally, they are gathering intelligence on me. Without me, our Star Alliance universe might face disaster, Song Chen said with a self-deprecating smile. He then looked at the shuttles and drones approaching closer. What are you going to do? Song Chen asked. Zhao Chen didn't answer immediately, but his response was obvious. The shell on the back and part of the legs of the mech fell away, revealing rocket thrusters installed inside. I don't like this, Song Chun said with a smile, though he was uncomfortable. Hold on tight. If you fall, I won't be responsible, Zhao Chun said calmly. Song Chun pulled out a hilt from his waist, and a golden sword ignited in his hand. Song Chun held his sword with both hands, stabbing it directly into the shoulder of the mech. He wore a confident expression on his face. Zhao Chun was inside the cockpit, activating all the rocket thrusters. These were added devices on the mech that allowed it to fly short distances. The rocket nozzles began to emit flames, causing intense vibrations that made the entire communication tower shake, as if it might collapse. Then, the long spear mech started running, gaining speed rapidly. When it reached the edge of a tall building, it suddenly jumped. Like a missile, it flew straight toward the starship. This sudden move stunned everyone, including the captain on the starship opposite. Warning: enemy mech is approaching our starship. Should we destroy it? The officer asked nervously. The captain asked in a deep voice, Are you sure the person standing on that mech is the leader of the Star Alliance universe? Yes, it's confirmed. Don't use the ship's guns. Make sure to capture this Star Alliance leader alive. A living enemy leader is more valuable than a dead one. Although the ship's guns had already aimed at the mech, they ultimately did not fire. The rocket thrusters on the medium-sized spear mech's feet and back gradually shrank. When the mech was brought above the starship, these thrusters completely stopped working. Looks like your face really works well. It's almost as good as a star shield, Zhao Chun said with a light laugh. Song Chun didn't speak. It wasn't because he didn't want to, but because at such a high speed, stabilizing himself on the mech's shoulder was already impressive. Trying to find the strength to speak would be very difficult. Next, Zhao Chun stared at the starship below, wrapped in a star shield. The surrounding enemy drones and shuttles had been ordered to surround the starship, but they still hadn't attacked. Next, leave it to me. The mech slowed down, giving Song Chun a chance to speak. But his words surprised Zhao Chun. What is this guy planning to do? You can't let you take all the spotlight alone. Don't let yourself down. Song Chun drew his energy sword and suddenly leapt into the air. He jumped down from a medium-sized combat mech of the spear soldier class. The energy sword in his hand also changed. It turned from its original color to blood red, and it shimmered with a terrifying ripple. This is no ordinary energy sword. Zhao Chun saw Song Chun's plan. He used the last bit of energy from his rocket thruster to adjust his mech's position and followed Song Chun as they dove downward. Song Chun led the way, his energy sword pointing straight at the starship's shield. At the moment they collided, the star shield in that area shattered like glass. Then, Song Chun and the following medium-sized combat mech of the spear soldier class fell into the star shield. With a loud bang, the mech left a small dent on the surface of the starship's armor. You really have guts, Zhao Chun said as he stood up his mech, looking at Song Chun standing steadily beside him. Song Chun snorted coldly. His energy sword made him look like a swordsman. Stop wasting time. Keep doing what you want to do. Song Chun looked up at the closing star shield, then at the shuttles and drones outside. They had already started firing at their position, but their shots were very accurate, aiming mainly at the mechs, not at Song Chun himself. Be careful, Zhao Chun said as he crouched down, punching the armor of his mech repeatedly. Soon, cracks appeared, but the mech kept shaking, and Zhao Chun could hear the sound of bullets hitting the armor. Luckily, the enemies seemed hesitant to use heavy weapons, perhaps afraid of harming Song Chun nearby. But then, loud explosions sounded behind them. The entire cockpit lighting dimmed. The medium-sized combat mech of the long spear class stopped moving. What's going on? Song Chun looked confused at the long spear mech, which was emitting black smoke but remained still. The shuttles around were already sending interstellar marines to the surface of the spaceship. It seemed they truly intended to capture them alive. The mech's circuits are damaged. Zhao Chun kicked open the exterior of the mech's cockpit and jumped down. This long spear-class medium combat mech was not very advanced. It was only a near T4 level mech. After fighting all this way, with Zhao Chun operating at his limit, all the circuit modules had already reached their limit. Plus, after jumping onto the roof just now and enduring fire from shuttles and drones, it was completely out of commission. What do we do now? Song Chun frowned, looking at the spaceship's armor, which had only been cracked open. The armor of this T3 level interstellar destroyer would take a long time to break even with his light sword. Wait, Zhao Chun grabbed the edge of the spaceship's cracked armor with both hands. Then, he suddenly showed veins bulging on his forehead, and his arms started to turn red with blood. Zhao Chun gritted his teeth, letting out a beast-like roar from his throat. Song Chun was stunned. Previously, he admired Zhao Chun's skills in all areas. Breaking open the armor of an interstellar battleship with his bare hands? Although the crack had been made by the mech's fists earlier, that didn't mean he could tear it open by force. But in the next second, Song Chin's expression turned even more horrified. He saw the dented crack in the spaceship's armor begin to widen gradually, and the steel at the crack started to tear apart. Bit by bit, it was being pulled open. Could this guy really tear open the spaceship's armor with his bare hands? Is he some kind of monster? Along with a loud cracking sound, an object shot out like a shell. Although Song Chun was only a few meters away, the strong wind and waves made his cheeks feel a bit sore. Behind him, something that had just been thrown out accidentally hit a shuttle trying to deliver the interstellar army. There was a loud bang, and the shuttle was mysteriously destroyed. At this moment, Song Chun saw clearly what the thrown object was, a piece of the starship's armor. It had been forcibly broken off by Zhao Chun. This revealed the interior of the starship's cabin. Quick, get inside. Zhao Chun panted heavily and glared at Song Chun, who was standing nearby, lost in thought. Oh, okay, Song Chun replied. He had faced many dangers before, but he had never seen a monster capable of tearing off the armor of a T3 interstellar battleship with his bare hands. Still in shock, he entered the cabin through the hole. He didn't know exactly when, but he had already drawn his laser gun and quickly checked the surroundings for safety. Even though he was surprised, he remembered his duty. It was instinctive to stay alert. Soon after, Zhao Chun also jumped inside. How did you do that? Song Chun asked, unable to hide his curiosity after confirming the area was safe. What? Zhao Chun seemed confused. I mean, how did you manage to tear open the starship's armor with your bare hands? Song Chun stared intently at Zhao Chun. Zhao Chun made a gesture with both hands, as if tearing something apart, and calmly said, just like this, and like this. Song Chun looked at him with a speechless expression. At that moment, faint footsteps could be heard around them, some from the nearby cabins, and others from outside the hole above. Let's go this way. Zhao Chun and Song Chun pointed in the same direction. They exchanged surprised glances and immediately ran toward a door in that direction of the cabin. Zhao Chun paused at the door for a moment, and Song Chun stopped right behind him. I have a star shield. I'll go ahead, Song Chun said, pointing to a bracelet on his wrist. It was a special personal star shield. Zhao Chun didn't stop him. Song Chun held a laser gun and charged forward with a very professional fighting stance. Then, they saw the shimmering light on Song Chun's star shield. That was the attack being blocked. Song Chun immediately started to fight back. While Song Chun was under attack, Zhao Chun took the opportunity to rush in. He accurately found each enemy's position. Because earlier, when Song Chun was attacked, the sound of gunfire and the attack paths helped him roughly guess where they were. After a few seconds of gunfire, only a few fallen enemy soldiers and dark red blood remained in the room. There were also several broken surveillance devices overhead. This was a necessary step to infiltrate an interstellar battleship. Otherwise, every move in the room could be detected by the enemy's bridge captain. Remember to loot. Zhao Chun crouched down, about to remind Song Chun. He saw Song Chun also familiar with the scene, searching the bodies for usable weapons. Mostly small, portable weapons like grenades, smoke bombs, and flashbangs. Although from two different worlds, their weapon designs were quite similar. For someone like Zhao Chun, a tech weapon engineer, a quick look was enough to understand how to use them. Do you know how to use this? Song Chun, at some point, had come up behind Zhao Chun. Seeing Zhao Chun holding a grenade, he reminded him proactively. Zhao Chun looked at Song Chun with some surprise. How do you know how to use this grenade? Song Chun paused briefly, then calmly replied, We've been fighting against their fleet for a long time, so we naturally understand their weapons. This answer was quite reasonable. Zhao Chun looked at the bodies in front of him. Humanoid creatures with 4 limbs, but no visible body hair such as hair or eyebrows. Their skin appears sickly white, with noticeable indentations on the cheeks, but their eyes are at least twice as large as those of humans. Although they are humanoid, this creature looks quite strange. The humans from the Star Alliance are exactly the same as those from the Falcon Dragon universe. This makes Zhao Chun feel a bit relieved, thinking that he came from the Star Alliance universe, not some other strange world. Let's go, Song Chun reminded him at this moment. Zhao Chun looked at Song Chun, who had already chosen a direction, and frowned slightly. Not because Song Chun chose the wrong way, but because he chose the right one. The direction he was heading toward was the bridge of this starship. He seems to know a lot about this starship. Could it be because he gathered information about the enemy's starship on the battlefield? But as the leader of the Star Alliance, would he remember such detailed information? Moreover, this is a Tier 3 interstellar warship. On the battlefield, it's just cannon fodder. Who would care about the internal structure of a mere cannon fodder starship? With these doubts, Zhao Chun followed Song Chun. During the next part of their journey, Zhao Chun and Song Chun worked very well together. Song Chun used a star shield to lead the way, while Zhao Chun followed closely, always able to eliminate enemies quickly. After slaughtering a dozen crew members in one compartment who tried to resist, Song Chun threw away his laser gun and took out a pistol he had confiscated from the enemies. It looked strange, but was at least usable. Zhao Chun's laser gun only had one energy clip left. Just ahead is the final stretch to the bridge. It's a corridor about 500 meters long. Originally, we could have used the elevator to go directly, but after we boarded the ship, the hover elevator module was turned off, Song Chun said as he walked forward. Zhao Chun, walking beside Song Chun, said, "The number of enemies is not right. This starship, the Interstellar Destroyer, has at least 1,000 crew members inside. Among them is a 100-member interstellar land combat team. We just passed 13 cabins, each originally staffed with at least 300 crew members. So far, we have killed a total of 150 people, with only 30 members from the land combat team. These numbers do not include the ship's captain or crew transferred from other departments." Song Chun's sharp eyes looked through the closed doors of the front cabins. It was as if he saw a line of soldiers already arranged along the corridor on the other side. They held ready personal shields and formed a defensive line, with gun barrels aimed at them from behind. If they go out, it will be a storm of gunfire. Behind us, support enemies are probably closing in too. Plus, the time lost in fighting along the way. In just 1 minute, we will face a two-front attack. Zhao Chun threw his laser gun to Song Chun and drew 2 light swords from his waist. One was his own, and the other was a gift from Song Chun. Song Chun took Zhao Chun's laser gun without hesitation. In this brief fight, they seemed like battle-hardened friends, sharing a strong understanding. "How many minutes?" Song Chun asked. Zhao Chun closed his eyes and took a deep breath. 3 minutes. A slight smile appeared on Song Chun's face, and the leader of the High Universe Alliance looked excited. "I'll give you 5 minutes." Zhao Chun snorted coldly. 3 minutes. 1 more minute, and I am your guardian." "I don't have such a big son," Song Chun replied. On the corridor connecting this cabin to the bridge, over 100 soldiers gathered, forming a neat combat line. They knew there were only 2 enemies invading their starship, but they dared not relax their guard. The vice commander, who was in charge of commanding these people, swallowed hard, beads of sweat on his forehead. He knew how terrifying those 2 individuals were. With just the 2 of them, they moved freely inside the spaceship, like deadly ghosts. Although he didn't know how they managed to break into the ship's armor after their mechs were destroyed. Some support troops from the interstellar army outside said it looked like they were pried open by something. But that no longer mattered. Behind him was the bridge, and he absolutely could not let those 2 monsters enter it. As for the leader of the Star Alliance, capturing him alive would be best. If not, they would have to kill him. At that moment, the door to the cabin opened. Just as the vice commander was about to order the soldiers to open fire, "Wait, I surrender," a figure with hands raised stepped out. The vice commander was stunned. The soldiers who had been ready to shoot also froze, because they hadn't heard their commanding officer give the order to fire. "I surrender," Song Chun said, raising both hands. "Drop your weapons." The vice commander hesitated for a moment, but then shouted. He knew this person could be very dangerous. But capturing the highest-ranking enemy leader alive was a huge achievement, enough to earn him a terrifying reward in his kingdom. Song Chun obediently dropped his weapon. "And your partner?" The vice commander looked toward the door behind Song Chun, but he didn't see the other intruder from the intelligence report. Song Chun sighed and pointed to the cabin behind him. My subordinate was killed during the fight in the cabin behind me. That's why I gave up resisting and chose to surrender. If you don't believe me, you can send someone to check. The vice commander looked at Song Chun with suspicion, clearly not fully trusting his words. But upon reflection, it seemed to make some sense. These two people may be very strong, but it is unlikely they could kill hundreds of their soldiers without any injuries. Come here. The enemy leader, after realizing resistance was useless, chose to surrender to save a chance for survival. This is very reasonable. Thinking about it, I have achieved a great honor right in front of me. The deputy captain swallowed hard. After hesitating for a moment, he shouted, "Drop all your weapons and clothes. Then, kneel on the ground." Song Chun frowned slightly, but he slowly lowered his hands, first unzipping his combat jacket and throwing it on the ground. A few hand grenades rolled out of the jacket, but they did not explode. Song Chun was only wearing a black tight combat suit. Then, he slowly took off his combat pants, leaving only a pair of black tight underwear. Although these were simple actions, the over 100 people on the other side dared not take any chances. "Drop the device on your wrist first," the deputy captain shouted anxiously. Song Chun looked at the bracelet on his wrist. He seemed to hesitate for a moment, then slowly took it off and threw it on the ground. Next, Song Chun placed his hand on the collar of his black tight combat suit, where there was a hidden zipper. He slowly unzipped it a little, revealing the skin of his neck. But in the next second, he stopped. After a few seconds of pause, the deputy captain's forehead was covered in sweat. He shouted, "What are you doing? Quickly remove everything on your body." Song Chun, with a cold face, lowered his hands. "I am the leader of the Star Alliance. I demand to be treated with respect, not humiliated. Send your captain to meet me." Perhaps because his reaction was too normal, the deputy captain sighed in relief, then sternly said, "You have no choice. Now, immediately do as I say. What if I refuse?" Song Chun challenged the deputy captain. The next moment, the impatient deputy captain pulled out a laser gun and aimed it at Song Chun. A bullet hole appeared on the ground in front of Song Chun. "Do exactly as I say now. Otherwise, the next shot won't be so simple," the deputy captain sneered. This was the current situation. "Show some respect to my leader," he added. Suddenly, a cold voice sounded in the deputy captain's ear. He felt a chill down his back and slowly turned his head. He saw a very ugly face with a devilish smile staring at him. In the other's hand was a close combat weapon from their universe. Before he could speak, a bright white light flashed from a laser sword, and the blade pierced through the deputy captain's neck. One of the soldiers at the back heard the noise and turned around in confusion. He saw their deputy captain without a head and a man holding a white sword in one hand and a red sword in the other, smiling fiercely. He looked like a demon crawling up from hell. "Kids, the game begins," the demon declared. In the next second, the demon charged forward. With a red and a white sword, he performed a solo dance along the corridor. Meanwhile, Song Chun quickly drew his two laser guns and fired at the demon. The prelude to the slaughter began again. 1 minute later, the corridor was filled with over 100 bodies and dark red blood. The smell of blood filled the space. 3 minutes, I guess, Zhao Qin said calmly, putting away his two swords. He was covered in blood from the close combat, just now. Then you missed out on a lot of riches. In the Star Alliance, many people want me to be their godfather, Song Chun said with a light laugh. If you were a girl, I'd be happy to adopt you as my daughter. Zhao Qin stretched lazily and looked toward the bridge on the corridor's side. The two walked leisurely down the corridor toward the main bridge entrance. I ask you, how many Star Shield devices do you have on you? Besides that wristband that's out of energy, I have at least 3 similar devices. Are you so afraid of dying? You don't understand. Being alive is the most important thing. Just as Zhao Chun and Song Chun are about to reach the end of the corridor, the pursuers behind them arrive at the rear compartment. Suddenly, a loud explosion occurs. That compartment is blown up, leaving only a huge fire and faint screams. Zhao Chun and Song Chun arrive at the bridge door. Song Chun looks at the glowing door and frowns slightly. This has a defense field. It's hard to break through. Suddenly, a loud bang comes from beside him. A large hole appears in the wall next to the bridge door. Zhao Qin brushes dust off his hand. He points to the path he just created. Song Qin smiles slightly. This guy can tear open starship armor, so the walls inside the ship probably can't stop him. Zhao Qin and Song Qin enter the bridge. In the frightened eyes of the crew, they look like demons. Hello, just dropping by. No gifts today. How about a sword dance for you? Zhao Qin shows what he thinks is a harmless smile. But to the soldiers on the bridge, that is a demon covered in their comrades' blood, smiling at them. This guy is a monster. A few minutes later, Zhao Qin steps on the captain's head and sits in the captain's chair. I declare, this starship is now under my control. Song Qin rolls his eyes beside him. This kid is really losing the sense of hierarchy more and more. Song Qin ignores Zhao Qin's behavior. I open my communication device to contact the small team still on the communication tower, responsible for sending out rescue messages. The starship has been taken over by us. How is the rescue message progress? Report, we still need 10 more minutes. After 10 minutes, you are ready to board the ship. I will arrange a transport vessel for you, Song Qin said. When they heard that the enemy's interstellar battleship had been seized, almost everyone was shocked. So the leader is so strong? They managed to take over an enemy starship with just 2 people. No wonder they are the leaders of the Star Alliance. Next, we need to deal with. Song Qin turned around, but he saw Zhao Qin with a faint smile, aiming a laser gun at him. Song Qin kept his composure and shrugged, saying, Are you planning to start a fight now? Remember, there are still half of the crew and soldiers on this starship who are enemies. Not to mention the enemy shuttles and drones outside. Beyond the planet, an enemy fleet is also approaching. There's no need to say more. I am confident I can handle this. But right now, I need you to give me an answer that shows you pose no threat to me. Leader, Zhao Qin said, squinting at him. There was no hint of hostility on Zhao Qin's face. But Song Qin knew that if he said something that didn't satisfy this man, he might really be shot. You can trust me. Because we share the same identity, Song Qin said with a smile, looking at Zhao Qin. Zhao Qin said nothing. An interdimensional traveler. It seemed Zhao Qin guessed this answer. Are you also from another world? Song Qin didn't answer directly. Instead, he started walking around the ship's bridge, entering commands into various systems. Zhao Qin glanced at him, but didn't stop him. He was working on editing an artificial intelligence system. Suddenly, she gained incredible abilities and talents that were completely different from her previous body. This was the only possibility I could think of, Song Qin said calmly. Then why are you so sure I pose no threat to you and dare to tell me all this directly? Remember, we are both time travelers. But that doesn't mean we aren't rivals. Because of my special ability, Song Qin glanced at Zhao Qin. I can see anyone's killing intent towards me in any situation. From the beginning to the end, your killing intent towards me has been minimal. Even now, with a gun pointed at me, I can't feel your hostility. But I am sure that if my answer doesn't satisfy you, your killing intent might surge in the next second. Zhao Qin narrowed his eyes slightly. This ability seems somewhat similar to my own. Suddenly, the bridge shook violently. Song Qin was lifted into the air and then thrown toward Zhao Qin. Zhao Qin wasn't sure if Song Qin's actions were real or fake. After catching her, he quickly used a hold to turn her face down and pressed her onto the captain's chair. There was a sharp sound. Song Qin's tight black combat suit suddenly unzipped, revealing a large patch of skin. At this moment, the space seemed to fall into silence. A woman? Zhao Qin looked at Song Qin in surprise, and her face turned cold at this moment. She should be said to have suddenly spun around like an eel, breaking free from Zhao Qin's grip, then kicked him in the stomach. In the next second, Song Qin took control, pressing Zhao Qin down and holding a dagger to his neck. Wait. It was just an accident earlier. Zhao Qin was confident he could take the dagger away. But so far, the other person had shown sincerity, and Zhao Qin didn't want to kill her. Since she was also a time traveler, their identities and the secrets of how they arrived in this universe must be connected. Zhao Qin looked sincerely at Song Qin's eyes, which were filled with a mix of shame and anger. Starting to unlock system information. The system is unlocking, and it will take about 1,000 minutes. At this moment, in Zhao Qin and Song Qin's ears, this is the long-lost system sound for Zhao Qin. What does it mean? The only thing different from usual now is the scene where Song Qin is sitting on him and physically touching him. and they are looking into each other's eyes from very close. Do you have a system? Zhao Chun and Song Chun ask at the same time. They both frown, feeling a strange sense of unease. It seems like they are somehow connected. But no matter what, they need to wait until the information in their minds is decoded. That will take more than 16 hours. No matter what their identities are, for now, they are still allies. I suggest we first deal with the current problem. We can talk about other things later, Zhao Chun says proactively. I agree. Song Chun stands up, looking at her torn tight-fitting shirt. Probably due to the recent battles, including the fight on the starship and close combat, her outfit has reached its limit. Finally, under Zhao Chun's control, she is taken down. Suddenly, a piece of clothing is thrown over. It's a relatively clean military jacket. Song Chun glances at Zhao Chun beside her, then puts on the military jacket. Zhao Chun begins to investigate the cause of the recent vibration and quickly finds out. Perhaps during the fight, some starship modules were accidentally damaged, causing an explosion. The explosion happened right below the bridge. Fortunately, the damage is not serious. It only affected some of the starship's performance efficiency, Zhao Chun explains. Song Chun continues with her previous task. We don't have enough personnel to control this starship. We need to develop an artificial intelligence program to help us. At the same time, they took full control of the starship and eliminated all enemy crew members on board. I'll help you, Zhao Chun said as he walked over to Song Chun. They exchanged a quick look, said nothing, and began editing the data of the artificial intelligence program. The two of them worked together smoothly, like experienced partners. Soon, a holographic projection of a little girl appeared in the control room. Dad, Mom, Yaya is here. The girl waved at Zhao Chun and Song Chun. Zhao Chun was surprised, while Song Chun's face stiffened. Don't call me Mom, call me sister. Song Chun scolded the girl. Yaya blinked sadly. I thought I could only create a medium-level AI, but I didn't expect to develop a high-level AI, Zhao Chun said, a bit surprised. Yaya was an AI program built by Zhao Chun and Song Chun working together. It wasn't perfect in some functions, but it met their current needs. However, in terms of intelligence, it was very advanced. Song Chun was also very surprised. She looked at Zhao Chun, guessing that his system's special abilities had helped him a lot. Thinking back to his impressive combat skills, she guessed it was related to his system. Yaya, handle the starship's affairs first. Take control of all the ship's systems and protect the important modules as much as possible. Lock the crew members in controlled areas, Zhao Chun ordered Yaya directly. Understood, Dad. Yaya will do it now, Yaya replied obediently, acting like a little sprite and starting to carry out Zhao Chun's orders. Thanks to Yaya, the advanced AI, Zhao Chun and Song Chun had much less to do. Otherwise, it would be impossible for just the two of them to operate a starship. Even including the dozens of people about to board the ship, it is still impossible. Why do you trust me? Song Chun suddenly asked nearby. Zhao Chun looked at Song Chun with some surprise. Why do you ask that? Do you also have something like me, to recognize things like your level of hatred? Song Chun stared at Zhao Chun. Zhao Chun felt that Song Chun probably had some abilities he hadn't revealed yet. For example, the ability to tell if someone is lying. In any case, both of them had systems, so anything was possible. Zhao Chun had no intention of lying. When he was ready to be honest with the person in front of him, he decided not to lie. At least, he wouldn't hide some unimportant secrets. Because I want to go home, Zhao Chun said. Song Chun looked at Zhao Chun with some surprise. Your home? The place you came from before traveling here? Song Chun asked curiously. Zhao Chun shook his head. Although I had a home before I traveled, that was a long time ago, about 7 or 8 years. If I could go back, that would be best. But now, I need to go to a different place, my original universe before I came here. There, I have my wife, my newborn child, and a universe I need to protect, just like you. Song Chun noticed that Zhao Chun's eyes were gentle and full of memories as he spoke. It was as if he could see through space and time, watching something. You came from another universe before? Song Chun caught the meaning in his words. Zhao Chun didn't hide it. He had taken a risk by revealing his system's secret, mainly because he was eager to return to his universe. Right now, the best chance seemed to be through Song Chun. So, he had to be straightforward with him, or it would take a lot of time. He truly didn't have time and couldn't afford to delay here any longer. Have you traveled through time again? Song Chun was very surprised. She didn't expect that Zhao Chun had traveled twice. Hearing that Zhao Chun was eager to return to his own universe, Song Chen's trust in him grew a little more, because she could see that Zhao Chun was really eager to go home. If you have any way to help me return quickly, I am willing to pay any price I can to do so. Zhao Chun stopped his work, turned to look at Song Chen beside him. His expression was very serious. Song Chen looked at Zhao Chun and said helplessly, "Although I feel sorry for you and want to send you back, I'm sorry, but I don't know any way to solve your situation." Zhao Chun had already expected this. He said, "You just heard the system's alert sound, right? If I'm not mistaken, the appearance of our system on us isn't a coincidence. It might be closely related to whether I can go back," Zhao Chun explained. "I'm also very curious about what exactly this system is," Song Chen said with a slight frown. This sudden thing that appeared in her mind was like a miracle. Anyone would be curious. "Let's talk about your world," Song Chen asked with interest. Now that they had some time, Zhao Chun briefly shared about his world and some of his experiences. At least those weren't secrets. Meanwhile, the spaceship wasn't idle. All the weapons outside the spaceship, including the cannons and various armaments, were operating at high speed. They destroyed all the nearby drones and shuttles. The spaceship hovering above the communication tower stood like a guardian here. "Warning! Warning! 10 hostile air missiles detected." The alarm sounded from the bridge. But at this moment, Zhao Chun and Song Chun didn't need to intervene. As the advanced artificial intelligence Yaya, she raised her hands and made a shooting gesture. Bayubiu. The close-range guns on the spaceship fired a barrage of bullets. They accurately intercepted and destroyed all incoming missiles. Without the computing power of advanced AI, this T3-level interstellar battleship might not have been able to do that. At this moment, a transport ship controlled remotely by Yaya slowly emerged from a spaceship compartment and landed below the communication tower. You could see that the surviving members of the Star Alliance soldiers had all retreated from the tower and boarded the transport ship. These ships would take them back to the main spaceship. Report to the leader. Our distress signal has been sent. After boarding the ship, they followed the instructions from the bridge to eliminate the remaining enemies inside the spaceship. Then, they were to take control of important sections as directed. After giving these orders, Song Chen looked at the alarms flashing on the spaceship's radar. "We've spent too much time here, and the enemy must have already learned about us taking the T3 interstellar battleship. Next, we need to escape. We must hold on until our reinforcements arrive," Song Chen said seriously. Zhao Chen nodded and looked at Song Chen. "Although we are not friends, at least in the next few hours, you can't die without my permission." Because Zhao Chen didn't know if the system unlocks anything related to the time traveler, he wouldn't allow Song Chen to die before then. Song Chen smiled slightly. She looked at Zhao Chen and said, "I've heard your story. Would you like to hear mine?" Listening eagerly, Zhao Chen replied. Song Chen's gaze began to drift into memory. "Actually, I didn't just hide my gender. I also hid my name. I do not like the name Song Chen. I prefer to be called by others Zhao Chengqing or Zhao Cheng." Zhao Chengqing looked at Zhao Chun. At that moment, Zhao Chun was struck with a sudden realization. Zhao Cheng, Zhao Chengqing. Could this also be a coincidence? Song Chun is the name she uses in the Song family. Song Chun is the illegitimate daughter of the Song family. Her father, when he was young, forced a woman into a relationship after getting drunk. That woman is Song Chen's mother. This was illegal, but because of the Song family's high status, her father's actions were unlikely to be investigated. In the end, the matter was left unresolved. After that incident, Song Chen's mother was depressed for a while, but continued to live on. Later, Song Chen's mother discovered she was pregnant. Others advised her to have an abortion, but she decided to keep the baby, no matter what. The man was at fault, the child was not. And so, Song Chen was born. This was also the time when Song Chun traveled to this world. Her mother kept her origins a secret and didn't know her true background. Although she was a traveler from another world, she could feel that her mother loved her very much. So, she wanted to use her abilities to help her mother and live a better life. It's a pity my system only awakened when I was 8 years old. If it had come earlier, maybe my mother wouldn't have stayed in that place. When Zhao Chun heard Song Chun say this, his eyes filled with guilt. When Song Chun was 6, the planet where she and her mother lived experienced a problem at a laboratory, causing a chemical leak. Mutant creatures appeared in the city. Although Song Chun and her mother managed to escape on a transport ship, her mother was injured while protecting her from the mutants, and her body was affected by a mutated virus. At that time, the people on the transport ship noticed the injuries on my mother. They all wanted to throw my mother off the ship. I stepped forward and protected her, saying, "If you want to throw my mother out, then take me with her." Haha, I was so naive back then. To those people, my life as a little kid was just like that of an ant. Just as my mother and I were about to be thrown off the ship, my mother threw something out. She said, "I am the heir of the Song family. No one dares to hurt me." Song Chin's mouth twitched, and he showed a self-deprecating smile. The Song family. How could I not have heard of the famous Song family? A third of the industries on our planet are connected to the Song family. With just one command from the Song family, they could kill anyone on this planet. I never thought I would be an illegitimate child of the Song family. At that time, no one believed it. But luckily, there were people from the Song family on the transport ship. I am one of the few people in the Song family I am grateful to. She was a relative of the Song family. When she heard the commotion on my side and the mention of being the heir of the Song family, she carried a blood collection device and took a sample of my blood. After confirming I was from the Song family, she helped us stay on the transport ship. But everyone else saw us as if we carried a plague. Zhao Chen noticed a shadow of gloom in Song Chen's eyes. Such a childhood. No wonder Song Chun became the leader of the Star Alliance and acts so coldly. Back then, my mother's condition started to worsen. I knelt before Aunt Song, begging her to save my mother. Finally, she agreed. She used the best medical equipment on the ship, but it only turned my mother into a vegetable. She was just a living vegetable for 2 years, Song Chun said with a self-deprecating smile, his eyes filled with deep guilt. After that, you returned to the Song family? So what is your gender? Zhao Chen asked curiously. Usually, since Song Chun is female, and at that time the Song family was hostile towards her, it would be hard to hide. When I was fleeing with my mother, I dressed like a tomboy, and since I was young, it was hard to tell from my appearance. Aunt Song took us back and reported this news. The Song family only placed us in a remote house on a distant planet. They probably saw us as nothing more than pests in the sewer, and the bloodline of the Song family and me was considered dirty in their eyes. It wasn't something made public. So, no one ever checked my gender. Later, I got a system. You probably know this. The system gives strange rewards, including the ability to change my gender. But there's a time limit, which was enough to handle some situations later on, Song Chen explained. Zhao Chun was very surprised. It was hard to imagine what Song Chen looked like when she transformed into that form. Luckily, her system didn't have such preferences. After that, most people in the Star Alliance knew what happened. When my mother passed away, my system awakened. From that moment, I decided to live well and show those who looked down on us that I could live a good life without relying on my bloodline, better than any of them. Because my mother said she hoped Xiaochen would live well. This life was given by my mother. It was her wish, and I had to fulfill it. Song Chen looked away, preventing Zhao Chun from seeing her eyes. But Zhao Chen knew her eyes were probably moist at that moment. He also understood Song Chen's feelings and why she ultimately stayed in the Song family. It was likely because of Aunt Song. If not for her, the Song family might not even be called Song anymore. If I remember correctly, the true ruler of the Song family is said to be a distant relative who is a kind-hearted woman. However, no one dares to question this relative because it is secretly approved by Song Chun. At least now, you have fulfilled your mother's wish. You are living well, Zhao Chen said. After a brief exchange, the battles inside the starship also came to an end. All the enemy soldiers in the cabins had been cleared out. This starship is now fully controlled by Zhao Chun and his team. So, what should I call you from now on? Our names are so similar. I can't believe it's just a coincidence. I wonder what secrets this system is hiding. Zhao Chen suddenly thought and looked at Zhao Chengchen. Honestly, their names are so similar that calling her by her real name feels a bit strange. Hearing Zhao Chen's question, Zhao Chengchen was also stunned. She hadn't thought about her name either. Let's do this. We fought side by side as comrades and learned some of each other's secrets. In front of your subordinates, I'll call you leader. Privately, I'll call you Orange, Zhao Chen chuckled. Zhao Qingqing's expression froze, as if she heard her mother calling her. But she didn't argue. Perhaps she was longing for someone to call her that again, and not Song Chun, or leader. Soon, a few slightly disheveled officers arrived at the bridge. When they stepped onto the bridge, they saw the bloody scene inside. They instinctively swallowed hard. There were bodies everywhere. Among the bodies, two people stood in front of the captain's chair. It created a very vivid image. Enduring the discomfort, these Star Alliance officers reported to Song Chun. Zhao Chengsheng turned her head to glance at the four officers she had summoned. Basically, these are the people who previously served as bridge officers on their own ship. The rest of the soldiers were all assigned by her to guard important sections inside the starship. First, clean up this area, Zhao Chengsheng pointed around. Although she could ignore the environment, who wouldn't want to be in a cleaner place? The four officers immediately started cleaning the bridge. Since the bridge is so large, they couldn't clean it by hand in just a few days or weeks. They mainly looked for semi-intelligent cleaning devices inside the bridge to help remove the bodies and blood. At least, most areas wouldn't look so bloody. Next, have you thought about what we should do? Zhao Chengsheng looked at Zhao Chun, now actively asking for his opinion. We can't stay on this planet. Although you might still have some survivors of your remnants here, it's not realistic to fly our starship to rescue them. It could even put them in danger because enemies will focus more on us. My idea is this. We should pilot the starship away from this planet and use your secret communication channels with the Alliance to send messages to the survivors. They can hide and wait for rescue later. After hearing Zhao Chen's first step, Zhao Chengsheng nodded. She mostly agreed with this plan. Then, Zhao Chengsheng pointed to a star map. This star map shows the area around the planet. It is part of the starship's built-in navigation system, which Zhao Chun and the others can use. Next, we need to figure out how to escape. Zhao Chun didn't respond to her, but looked at Yaya beside him. Yaya, can you hack into the enemy's communication or command network? In a way that the enemy cannot detect, how can we gather information about their interstellar warship deployments and plan subsequent commands? Of course, no problem. Spy Yaya, activate. Yaya turns around and immediately puts on a black outfit, along with a black hat and sunglasses. Zhao Chun and Zhao Chengsheng exchange a glance. They don't know who programmed this, but somehow this advanced AI has a cute personality. Start syncing enemy data. Yaya's actions are very secretive. Ensure the enemy cannot detect Yaya. Soon, Yaya's efforts produce results. On the starry battlefield model in front of Zhao Chun, enemy ships appear, including interstellar warships, shuttles, fighter crafts, space stations, and various weapons and strategic facilities. Not only on this planet. Looking at the bigger picture, data about the entire star system where this planet is located is also included. Arrows are drawn to show directions. For example, a fleet of 30 interstellar warships is heading here, expected to arrive in 20 minutes. Zhao Chun glances at Yaya. Yaya is currently standing with her hands on her hips, head held high, looking very proud. Yaya's abilities are like a top intelligence officer on the battlefield, almost like having a battlefield surveillance system. Of course, this is because the enemy doesn't expect Zhao Chun to have created such a high-level AI. If this were known, no one would believe it. In normal battles, there are usually countermeasures to prevent enemies from easily invading communication and intelligence networks. How long do you think your reinforcements will take to arrive and save the day? Zhao Chun asks Zhao Chengsheng. Zhao Chengsheng thinks for a moment, then frowns slightly and says, under normal circumstances, my subordinates would send the fleet using the T6 Illusion Star interstellar jump ship as quickly as possible, then quickly retreat. However, earlier, to carry out that clever tactical plan, we committed about 70 to 80% of our T6 Illusion Immortals. The remaining T6 Illusion Immortals were placed on the front lines, ready to handle emergencies. This area belongs to the enemy's universe. Although T6 Illusion Immortals can perform long-range teleportation to send fleets, thanks to the connection between the two universes, they can't just send hundreds or thousands of starships easily. Most likely, at least 10,000 starships would be needed to make such a deployment. Therefore, a certain number of T6 Illusion Immortals are required. Zhao Chun understood Zhao Chengsheng's idea. Basically, the Star Alliance doesn't have a clear picture of the situation here. They also don't know how many starships to send for support. Sending too few risks falling into a trap, and then not only would the leader not be rescued, but they would also lose many T6 starship teleporters, which are strategic weapons. This means they need a large number of T6 starship teleporters to complete the mission. It's a very difficult decision. Moreover, no one knows the current situation inside the Star Alliance. Since Zhao Chengsheng went missing, there might have been unexpected events. Unfortunately, we can't use the starship's communication devices to contact across universes, Zhao Chengsheng said helplessly. Then we'll prepare for the worst. Suppose we might not receive support for a long time, Zhao Chen said with a deep look. Long-term lack of support. Zhao Chengsheng understood what Zhao Chen meant. This really is the worst-case scenario. Even Zhao Chen left her a bit of face, not directly saying, there is no support at all. With just their 1T3 starship, escaping would be extremely difficult. Yaya, how long can the energy and supplies of this starship last without resupply? Zhao Chen looked at Yaya. Yaya replied, without energy, this starship can travel for 60 days in non-combat mode. But during battle, we need to consider other factors. Currently, the starship's remaining combat supplies and ammunition are at 60%. Zhao Chen then listed some data. Our starship is called the T3 Hunter, a medium-sized interstellar destroyer. Its speed is quite good. In this galaxy, among the enemy's starships, it ranks in the top 3. And if we only run away, the enemies would need to trap or intercept us to stop us, which is difficult. With Yaya's help, it's like having a clear view of everything. We don't need to worry about being surrounded by enemy starships, unless their numbers increase 20-fold. Zhao Chen held up 2 fingers. Zhao Chengsheng nodded, agreeing with Zhao Chen. But later, once the enemies learn you're here, they will send more ships. Just from the intelligence Yaya has gathered, several enemy fleets are nearby, using stargates to support their attack. Fortunately, this galaxy is cheap to operate in, and only a small short-range stargate has been built for interstellar travel. This buys us some time. But we can't be careless. The enemy's pursuit will likely grow stronger over time. Within 5 hours, we should be safe. In 10 hours, their starships might start chasing us. Around 15 hours, they will try to set up preemptive intercepts in our travel path, greatly reducing our escape routes. In about 20 hours, our space to escape will be even more limited. Zhao Chengsheng nodded, and then said, unless we can escape to a more hidden place. Zhao Chen and Zhao Chengsheng exchanged a quick look. They spoke the same word at the same time. Galactic edge space. Galactic edge space is the area between galaxies, usually empty of stars and light, a dark and silent region. If our spaceship can enter the galactic edge space, our chances of escaping will greatly increase. If we only hide inside the galaxy, it's just a matter of time before we're caught, Zhao Chengsheng said, making a pinching gesture on the star map. The entire galaxy shrank, revealing the surrounding edge space. But the enemies will definitely guess this. They will try everything to stop us from reaching the edge space. Even if they just block us, not catch us, stopping us from entering the edge space until their reinforcements arrive. That would be a win for them, Zhao Chen said, crossing his arms with a serious look. Zhao Chengsheng didn't speak anymore, just stared at the star map. Then Zhao Chen moved to stand opposite Zhao Chengsheng, with the star map between them. Instead of just thinking, why not do a simulation battle? Right now, I am your enemy, and I will control the enemy fleet to catch you. I don't know where your spaceship is, but I will make all my moves public. Yaya, you handle the battlefield simulation, Zhao Chen said. Yaya understands. Yaya happily flew onto the star map. Okay, Zhao Chengsheng agreed without hesitation. At this moment, Zhao Chen and Zhao Chengsheng seemed like opponents on opposite sides of a chessboard. I order the 3rd Squadron of the Yasato Galaxy Garrison to go to // for interception. I order the 5th Squadron of the Yasato Galaxy Patrol Fleet to go to // for interception. I order the 1st Squadron of the Yasato Galaxy Garrison to pursue and attack the enemy spaceship at // Zhao Chen's orders were passed down one after another. During this exercise, along with Zhao Chen's commands, Yaya began controlling the fleet's movements. Zhao Chengsheng watched Zhao Chen make his move. She saw Zhao Chen's goal, mainly to block. Even though it looked like he sent pursuers, it was actually more like a tactic to trap the prey. I order my ship to immediately head at full speed toward // In the next moment, Zhao Chengsheng's starship disappeared from Zhao Chen's view. At the same time, Zhao Chen couldn't hear what commands Zhao Chengsheng was giving. However, on the other side, Zhao Chengcheng could see her starship's golden mark and understand Zhao Chen's plans. Hee, Baba said there are rules. Baba can't see Momo's starship, Yaya said happily. This was a small trick to make what both sides could see slightly different. At this moment, in Zhao Chen's mind, that starship had already split into several afterimages, moving in different directions. Zhao Chen kept giving commands. Meanwhile, Zhao Chengcheng also occasionally sent new orders. It was like a game of cat and mouse. Zhao Chen was the cat, and Zhao Chengcheng was the sneaky mouse. Suddenly, on the star map in front of them, the fleeing starship appeared, having encountered Zhao Chen's fleet. Then, a chase began. After 7 hours, Zhao Chen's controlled enemy fleet was destroyed by Zhao Chen's forces. Zhao Chengcheng was shocked and looked at Zhao Chen with surprise. Although she knew the other was also a time traveler and probably had strong battlefield command skills, she didn't expect him to be so impressive. Actually, Zhao Chen's abilities weren't given by the system. He had often asked Charlotte Qitong and others for advice. Although Zhao Chen appears to be a laid-back leader, he is constantly studying the battlefield records of Charlotte, Red Eye, and Chu Xian. There are some parts he doesn't fully understand. When that happens, Zhao Chen directly asks the commanders of those battles. Zhao Chen naturally prefers to be a hands-off leader. But he understands one important rule. Some things you can choose not to do. But when those things are right in front of you, you must know how to handle them. So, the seemingly relaxed and carefree Emperor Qianlong has, over the past 7 years, transformed himself from an ordinary person into a capable starship commander. Even if he isn't as good as Charlotte and the others, he is still considered an excellent student in some interstellar military academies. And don't forget, Zhao Chen also injected himself with super soldier serum. The idea of a super soldier isn't just about physical strength. Zhao Chen can now easily simulate the course of a battle in his mind. This ability is very similar to Red Eye's talent for battlefield command. Again, Zhao Chengcheng was completely inspired by Zhao Chun and shouted fiercely. Despite Zhao Chun and Zhao Qingqing's repeated efforts, they still couldn't break through. It was as if an invisible wall blocked their way. We must find a way, Zhao Chen said firmly. Although your reinforcements might arrive at any moment, we need to think worst-case scenario. We can't leave our fate in others' hands. At that moment, a crew member on the bridge shouted, "Report, navigation is safe. Should we continue on the current course?" After speaking, the crew member looked at Zhao Chengcheng with admiration and also cast a surprised glance at Zhao Chen. Both of them observed this intense scene like a duel. This man was truly amazing. His abilities in this area were on par with their Star Alliance leader. Should we follow the previous 5th plan? Zhao Chengqing asked Zhao Chen. He nodded. That's the best option we have now. Adjust the course. Here is the latest navigation data. Follow this. Zhao Chengqing sent a navigation record to the crew member. The crew member looked at it and immediately started adjusting the course. We've been out for 5 hours now, and we've passed the easiest part. Next, the enemy's first wave of reinforcements will arrive one after another. If our commands go seriously wrong, we could lose everything, Zhao Chun said in a serious tone. Continue, Zhao Chengqing said, staring at the star map with determination. At this moment, she was truly interested in the current battle situation. She wasn't sure if her effort was because she genuinely wanted the starship to escape into the edge of space or just her competitive nature. There would be countless simulated battles ahead. In these simulations, Zhao Chun and Zhao Chengcheng would plan the best strategies for this T-300 starfighter, a medium-sized interstellar destroyer. This caused the T-300 Scout, a medium-sized interstellar destroyer, to remain hidden during the first 10 hours. Despite being surrounded by enemy forces, it never revealed its position. Many enemy fleet commanders were surprised by this. The galaxy was so small that it seemed as if a starship could vanish into thin air. If they hadn't been sure that the ship was still within this galaxy and lacked the ability to jump through space, they would have worried whether the ship was still here. Finally, after the 11th hour of its journey, the T-300 Scout was spotted by a starship drone sent out by an enemy carrier. Report, the enemy has detected our ship and is gathering their fleet to surround us, Yaya reported anxiously. Zhao Chun and Zhao Chengcheng felt a heavy weight in their hearts. The worst-case scenario was happening. In this battle of catching a thief, the earlier the enemy finds out our position, the more dangerous it is. But at this point, based on their calculations, this was the best possible timing. Zhao Chengqing immediately set their course for escape. The next part of their journey would be even more difficult. If they were careless, they could be completely surrounded by pursuing enemy ships. At the 13th hour, the T-300 scout was once again exposed, this time because it was hit by an enemy starship. Damn it! If only they hadn't changed direction at the last moment, or if our speed had been a bit faster, they wouldn't have found us, Zhao Chengqing said with some anger. It's just how it is. This is the battlefield, not a simulation, Zhao Qin replied calmly. We can run the simulation countless times, but what happens on the battlefield is real. Anything can happen. Despite his calm words, Zhao Qin's brow was slightly furrowed, and a bead of sweat appeared on his forehead. Next, the T-3 Hunter Falcon medium interstellar destroyer successfully escaped from the pursuit of several interstellar warships. However, because their ship's position was exposed, the enemy began reallocating more interstellar warships to this area. They also deployed many warships in advance, heading toward the edge of interstellar space. The enemy commander knew that this big fish was trying to enter the edge of interstellar space. He would not let this happen no matter what. Even if he caught him later, he would trap him in this area. He couldn't let him swim into the open sea. Hour 15, the T-3 Hunter Falcon medium interstellar destroyer had no choice but to engage in battle with two pursuing T-3 interstellar escort ships. These escort ships were very fast. If they weren't destroyed, Zhao Qin and his team's ship would remain exposed to the enemy. So, they took a risk, trying to quickly defeat these two enemy escort ships. In the end, they used most of their interstellar missiles. Thanks to Zhao Qin and Zhao Qingqing's coordinated commands, this T-3 Hunter Falcon showed unprecedented fighting power. Within just a few minutes, they destroyed one enemy escort ship and heavily damaged another. They managed to escape again. But this delay of a few minutes caused more enemy warships to surround Zhao Qin's ship. Hour 16, the T-3 Hunter Falcon was now chased by a large enemy T-3 cruiser. This was the biggest danger they had faced so far. System alert. Top secret information unlocked at this moment. Something that Zhao Qin and Zhao Chengqing had forgotten suddenly appeared. A stream of information flooded into their minds simultaneously. Zhao Qin's expression changed from his previous worry about the battlefield situation. The situation changed to shock and disbelief. The person opposite, Zhao Chengqing, had the same expression.